Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Small Council, which we do Saturdays, some Saturdays, at 9 p.m. Eastern or whatever you get started. So if you're watching this on YouTube, please like, comment, and subscribe. Consider becoming a member of the YouTube channel by hitting that join button, supporting us that way. If you're liking this content 7 days a week. So, well, we have a fantastic group of individuals. Well, we have some amazing people, and then we have others, right? We'll start with others. LSP, thank you for being here. Thanks for stopping by, buddy. We've missed you. I always like having my man LSP here, so it's a bit of a treat. How are you, buddy?
I've really missed you. I'm really glad to meet you again, Joe Lewis. Anyway, next one.
Okay, thank you. All right, next we got an MVP. His name is Joe Lewis. Joe Lewis, whose name rings in the halls of fame. All right, they they whisper it in Twitch. You know, they know when Joe Lewis comes around, things are gonna escalate. So, Joe Lewis, how are you, buddy?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I was really.
Wait, did you miss me too, Joe Lewis?
What's that?
Did you miss me too?
Yeah, it's been a minute, man.
C
The last time we spoke was what?
Months, half a year ago, maybe a year.
Yeah,
it's been a while.
Yeah. So yeah.
C Prime, Dick.
Even an MVP like Joe Lewis can have bad taste. All right, moving on. We have Black American Made, my man, Bam, who I'm not feuding with, in case anyone out there might have thought that. Bam, a superstar here, and we always honestly just enjoy having him around. So Bam, thanks for being around. How are you?
I'm doing good. Actually, I've been I've had a lot of work stuff going on, but like good stuff, like the good type of busy. So yeah, I cannot complain. Should be another interesting night.
Oh, cool. All right, Dream is back with us, right? Our man Hateem is stopping by once again, right? And I reach out to the team all the time because I know this guy, he's up for the fight always. So thank you, Dream, for being around.
No, thank you for having me. I'm always, whenever I can, I will come. The only times I don't come is because I can't. So I love being here.
I haven't stroked you hard enough, but go ahead.
Do not come. Please do not come.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the debate. Like I said, I will have the most philosophically consistent and correct take here. It's my prediction.
All right.
Prime.
Yep.
Can I be back in the corner? I'm always in the corner. You know it's my spot. Thanks. Sorry. I'm sorry about that. It's just my spot. I felt out of place.
I love that he's emotionally attached to it. Okay. All right. But last and absolutely greatest. Look, there is this individual who has been with this channel for a long time. 2 years, some people would say. Others would say 1 year. But one of my favorite people, period. Right? Period. I like all these guys, but tier below, right? Sometimes multiple tiers below. We have.
I'm gonna remember that. Prime.
You should absolutely, right? You put that on my tombstone. Amanda's a tier above. All right. But we haven't had Amanda here forever, and we're so happy to have her here tonight. Like, it's a serious treat. So I was like ecstatic when she agreed to come on. Amanda, how are you?
I'm really good. I'm glad that you invited me especially when I was in a great mood, so I could say yes and come. So that was nice. Perfect timing.
Perfect timing. Hooray. Okay. All right. So we are let's get started. And I think this is a really interesting topic, so I hope everyone agrees. Topic. Every so often, we hear about parents disowning their children. Sometimes this is out of hatred of their child's identities, and other times it's out of disgust for their actions. Should there ever come a time when parents disown their child? Does your answer change if children are young and have done something awful? All right. So, to my audience, I'm what I sent my panel here. I gave them 2 specific examples of like awfulness that we'll discuss. One of them is a mother disowning her son for being a white supremacist, part of the like, I forget which one, not the Proud Boys, Patriot Front. And she recently like threw him out of the house, you know, but you just got to go. And another one is something that just happened, or at least just was reported on a few days ago. I'm gonna put this in chat because you guys got to see this shit to believe it. There were a group of kids who attacked an old man, like he was like an elderly individual on his way home. And these guys were like 14 to 12-year-olds, right? Attacked this old man and tragically killed him. This is it happened like last month, but it's only been reported recently. So you can check that link out. You can see the video. It's really unfortunate. So yeah, this is like the basis that we're talking about. So we'll start with Bam.
Yeah, pretty short and simple. I don't think you should ever disown your children, regardless of the things they do. When I first read this question, it made me think about an old movie called The Good Son, and it was about a child who was he was narcissistic, but he was also, what's the one where you don't have emotions? I can't think of it. Anyways,
Sociopath.
Yeah, he was a sociopath, and probably a psychopath too. This was like killing animals, then he was killing people, and he was kind of tried to kill his mom a couple times. Anyways, he ended up the mom, they were both hanging off a cliff. It was like a stepson and the son, and then she picked her stepson and let her son
You
drop
mean
and
the
die.
good son?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Oh, you okay? Yeah,
Macaulay Culkin.
Yeah, Macaulay Culkin. That's exactly what it is. Yeah, the good son. I'm sorry. Yeah, but so like that's what I thought of on this question. But yeah, I'm really not into that. Even if your child is a mass murderer, like they didn't choose to be born. And that, although you don't have to support their actions, like I don't think you disown them. They're still your child. And so like people deserve to have somebody in the corner.
That's really interesting. All right, so I think we're gonna have a really good conversation here. Let's go next to Joe Lewis.
Yeah, I'm pretty short too. I think it's totally fine to disown your children. That's it. I think it's totally fine to disown them. I think it's totally fine to cast them out of your family. I think all that's on the table. Like, just because they're children and you gave birth to them doesn't give them any magical new rights and magical new like guarantees in society. So if they do bad things and you want to disown them, do it. There's bigger fish in the sea. So it's like, if you have a problem with the individual active individuals, then that's cool. I just don't consider you serious.
Thank you. LSP.
I can tell Joe Lewis and I are going to fight a lot tonight. There are bigger fish in the sea, but that doesn't mean you abandon the fish you have. That fish is going to be hurt, right? That fish is going to be left abandoned. I pretty much agree with Bam. There even like for the worst of situations, I think everybody deserves to have some sort of an advocate or support in their corner. Somebody who stands up for their rights, and it should be parents first and foremost. When I take the word disown, I take that to mean like to cut completely out of your life and to reject as having any sort of relationship with a person whatsoever. I don't accept that. I believe all human beings have a capacity for change. And yes, even if somebody does something that, it's worth breaking the familial bond because you've done something horrible, even if this, they did something to like murder a guy in New York City. If they show like a capacity for change, if they show like a sense of resentment, it is good to be there for them. It is good to try to invite them back into a sense of family, a sense of community. I think that's how you improve people's lives, improve people's well-beings. I don't think you're likely to stop people from being murderers by rejecting them. In fact, quite the opposite. I think that's more likely to breed murderers. I think it's more likely to breed violence. I think this broad sense of rejection that people feel is what's likely to lead people into any sort of criminality. They don't have anybody there advocating for them. They don't have anybody there to give them guidance. So yeah, I'm 180 from you, Joe. Sorry. Sorry, buddy.
All right, let's. Why are you apologizing?
I'm
Apologize.
cucked. I am so cucked.
Fair enough. All
I
right.
have no idea how cucked I am.
All right. Thank you. Let's go to Dream, please.
I think it's pretty clear that there are situations where you should or can disown your child. Even LSP even stated out himself. He said, I think if the child is willing to, move forward and admit that their fault and change, everybody has the capacity to change. He's already laid out the foundation where there's a situation where you could disown that child, and this situation is where there isn't any capacity for change, or there's an unwillingness to change, and that's where you should disown your child, or you could disown your child. Of course, you can still do whatever you want as your parent. It's your right, and you can still accept that child, and that child will still do bad, and it will hurt you and hurt around those people around them. And so, like I said, if you're a mass murderer and you're like, yeah, I did what I did, and I love what I did, and nothing's gonna change my mind about it, why should I still be like, yeah, I'm proud of you, son, good job? Why? You gotta please help me, right? Help me understand why I'd be like, no, son, there's better things out there. Please. And you still do that. Let's say you do that for 10 years. After 10 years, no, I hate and I love what I do. I don't regret anything at all. Okay, bye, son. You're not my son no more. And I don't know about you guys, but I've actually been threatened to be disowned by my own family. My mom's like, when I told her, hey, Mom, I'm not Muslim no more. I was born Muslim. I had no choice in that. So when I decided I don't want to be Muslim no more, that's a huge deal when you come from a Muslim country. So my mom's like, yeah, you're not my son no more. Initially. And so she would ask me again, hey, Ateem, are you Muslim or not? Every time, I'm not Muslim. I tell you, oh, you're not my son no more. You're still not my son. And so I just stopped talking about it. So I can still be her son. The point is, there's a bunch of reasons. I don't think that's a good reason, first of all. But there's a bunch of reasons that you should or could disown your children, because before you come to the point of disowning, I think you should try your best to be the best parent you can be. Of course, if you're a bad parent, you've already built the foundation to have your child do horrible stuff for you to disown them. So, but if you've been the best parent you could be, and then your children had outside influences you couldn't really control, there's really nothing you can do once they've already gone past the line that you can't return from. Like if your son becomes Hitler, the next coming of Hitler, I think it's okay to disown that dude. Like, come on. I think that's not a controversial take at all. I think anyone who says otherwise is really out of their minds.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, let's go with Amanda.
Yeah. So as a parent, I don't think I personally could disown my children, especially if they committed, a bad crime or did something absolutely awful, because I would feel a ton of guilt as a parent that I had failure there. So I would feel the need that I would need to have some corrective action or try to I can't think of the word I'm thinking of, but basically put them right back on the right path. I think we also need to distinguish here between disowning and enabling, because we can not enable them without disowning as well. So not provide certain financial support and things like that to help their activities. And then also, I think that, so I really agree with LSP in regards to having a community and a support system, because without that, things just get worse. And I don't know what we expect if we just constantly let people fall through the cracks and continue not having supportive environments and communities.
I think this is interesting because we are split right down the middle, right? I am for disowning people when you have gone too far. I think there are circumstances that would definitely call for that. So yeah, we're actually split completely down the middle, which I love. Please open to the panel.
I wanted to bring up a point. I can't remember which one of you guys said it, but as I was thinking about this question earlier, I thought, I could never, like I just said, I could never disown my children. But it brings me back to the fact, so like I've had times where I've almost disowned my own mother and we hadn't talked for years, and that's because of the toxicity that she brought to my life. So if my children continually brought toxicity to me personally, I don't know how I'd be able to navigate that, and that is somewhat confusing because if they're out in the community being toxic, I wouldn't disown them. So thought that was interesting.
That is
I think
interesting.
that there's a lot of and this is a really big online thing I've seen recently of like people who, and it's probably in real life. This is just where I've recognized it. If people who think that like blood connections and blood familial connections like don't find a lot of value in that inherently. Like, you know, like the family that you choose, like you know, your friends and stuff, those are more important than people that you happen to have like some sort of blood relationship. And although that makes sense to me and I see value in it, I just personally don't agree. I think that there is something to blood connections. I think there is something to, like, my brother is my brother regardless of what my brother does. Same thing for my parents, my grandparents, etc. Like I think there is some inherent value to that. There's something that like I said, I just couldn't, although I would never like approve of my children doing anything I'm bad. Like like as far as having someone somewhere they can come home to, like I couldn't see myself not being that for my child.
To build on that, I think that when it comes to like for example, my dad did horrible things to my mom, to me, to his children. And so it's like I wished I had a better father. And so I can be like, man, I don't really like my dad. I don't like my dad, but I still like wish that he was better. You know what I'm saying? So it's not like I really do appreciate when it says like people will be like, you know, I had an abusive father, but then my stepdad, he stepped up and he was a better father. So I consider him my real father. For example, my girlfriend Jade, she has a biological father and her stepdad. And her stepdad was a way better father to her. And so she's like, yeah, that's my real dad, because he's the one that was in my life. She didn't really care about her biological father because he abandoned her at birth and didn't care for her. He just paid alimony, right? Child support. So there is something to, the family that you choose, the family that actually cares about you, right? Like the people who's in your life that matter are the people that's in your life doing things to help you or loving you, giving you unconditional, not the people that is doing things to harm you, doing things that say, you know, that's harmful to your life. For example, like if you had parents and you were gay and they were super religious and conservative and be like, yeah, I disown you, I hate you, you're a disgrace to the family, why you gotta be gay, yada yada. If I'm that child, I'm like, okay, well, I hate you guys. Like, if you don't love me for who I am, I mean, I hope you did love me for who I am, but since you don't, you know, I'm gonna find a family that can love me, who can appreciate who I am for who, you know what I'm saying? So it's not, I think the only inherent value to your family is the biological connection that you have, and you can make it whatever you want, right? And so that's all it is to it. Like, you can make it whatever you want as the person in your family. Like, if you want to still love your family, even though they hate you, they don't want you in your family, that's your choice.
I think it's probably a little different for especially mothers who've carried, you know, a baby. So saying like something like that, like, oh, it's not blood, or you can find your own, create your own family. I think there's just I don't know, there's something very different with that.
Before we continue, whoever has getting like Discord notifications, if you could mute your notifications because we like hear it on our end.
I
Okay.
don't hear it.
I definitely hear someone's Discord notifications, one of you guys. But it's fine. Okay, whatever. So I actually want to ask Bam a question, because I think what you said was what a lot of people feel. Talking about how your brother is your brother, right? And that'll be the case no matter what. I want to ask, what makes your brother, right? Like, if circumstances were different and you and your brother never grew up together, and right, like you met when you're deep in your 20s, like, would you, and I know this is hard to imagine, but
It's not.
Okay, so would you feel okay, never mind, sorry.
No, you good. Like, yeah, I have siblings that is that very situation. I still have a sibling that I've never met somewhere out there in the world. Kind of scary. But yeah, I think that like as soon as I found out, like, oh, okay, this is someone who I have like as soon as I found out, I was like, oh my goodness, I have this connection with someone. Now, does that mean that we have all the memories and all of those types of things? No, definitely not. But if they came to me and they needed something, I feel like I would like just off the beginning, I was like, okay, I have to be there. Now, that doesn't mean that they're the top priority in my life, because I would be lying if I didn't say I didn't have friends who I consider also consider my brothers who I have probably higher on my concern list. But no, I think there is some inherent value to blood connection. It doesn't make you the closest person in my life, but it makes you pretty damn close. It puts you up there whenever I find that, and that goes for siblings and also cousins. Because I have a big family, but as far as like my immediate cousins, like I hold them in really, really close regards too.
So blood to you, like, deserves some level of consideration. That's what that
Does.
sounds like.
Yeah, there's some basic consideration from
Of
a blood connection.
course.
I'm curious.
I mean, I think that's an obvious take. Like, consider the blood, but that don't mean you have to accept the blood. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm going to ask. Like, if your brother, you find out, who your long lost brother is, like you're saying, he's out there, right? He didn't want anything to do with you. Is he really your brother? Is a stranger you've never met?
Me, yeah.
You think so?
I mean, he's obviously still your brother biologically, but I'm talking about the connection.
Yeah, like
right?
brother means something more than just like we came from the same mom, right?
Yeah.
It has to mean more than that.
But it also doesn't have to mean more than that.
Oh yeah, it doesn't have to. No, I guess. But to me, yeah, like I said, it would be on the regards of like if this person I've never met before in my life, if there was some way that like they could confirm, like they came to me like, hey, it could honestly be a kind of pretty crazy ass. Like honestly, I need $1,000. There's something going on. I'm gonna go to jail if I don't get it. And if I have it, like, but I'm gonna figure out a way to get it. And that's crazy, but that's my personality.
don't know.
Bam. Look, turns out, like I didn't want to tell you this before.
Oh, it was you the whole time. I can feel it.
So beautiful. And like my PayPal is open, right? Like if I don't get it, I'm not supposed to.
Speaking of your PayPal, chat.
Yeah.
I am like Bam. I actually don't know a couple of my siblings either. I've never met them and just know that they exist in a specific state. And I feel the same way as Bam. If they called me up and I knew they were actually a sibling and needed help, I guess that's actually if pretty much anyone calls me up and needs help. So I don't know if that's because they're blood. So
that's true too. That's also a factor.
Maybe it's just part of our personalities, Bam.
You guys are talking from a neutral point of view. I don't think anyone disagrees with that. We're talking about what if your family member is a bad person? And you know it's a bad person. He's continued to do bad person. He hasn't changed. And he's not going to change. That's obviously the context we're talking about.
Yeah, no, but that I wouldn't enable them as like I'm gonna say I would never enable their behavior.
Do?
But that I would if someone said like, oh yeah, is that your sibling? Yeah. Do you love them? Do you still love them? Do you want the best for them? I would say yes. Like absolutely.
People who disown people still say that, bro.
Then what does disown mean to you? I'm wondering what it means to you.
To cut out of one's life?
Yes.
I don't know. But again,
you don't talk to them no more.
Yeah, like if you're
call, you don't answer.
Brother who beats
obviously somebody asked, "Hey, is that your son that you disowned?" Yeah, that was my.
That's how I disowned. Yeah, let's say like your alcoholic brother with a CP charge and all sorts of abuse issues, and he's like, "Hey, you want to go bowling?" Like, are you just gonna like pretend like, "Oh yeah, sure, you're an alcoholic person who abuses my nephews, but yeah, sure, let's just go hang out and get a beer."
No, yeah, probably not that, but I think that's a different thing. Like that just comes to like other people's safety. Like if I knew that if even if there is not like CP or anything, if I knew that like, oh, this is a really, really bad influence, I don't want you necessarily like I like you're not watching my kids because I also have a close relationship with them. Like I have, like I just don't think that would be a good bond moment for you. But that doesn't mean that if you need something, I'm not going to be there. There's just certain things that,
what if
that I'm not going to do
for alcohol or drugs.
Then that would be enabling. I wouldn't do that either.
What would you do? Is.
But I would buy them food. I would, like help them.
Food.
Yeah.
Even if they make no effort to clean up their act.
Because
If they won't work, they just know they can just go and ask you because you're brothers. You'll just take care of them.
You're enabling them to live, to continue their harm. Why would you buy them food?
I think that people need to eat, even people who are doing
Even people
bad
that
things.
commit harm. So
Sure,
if you,
hey,
that's insane, bro. That is insane.
But the bad people should starve and die? Is that because that's the alternative?
No. Bad people should be in a locked up situation. Why are they free?
I don't. Again, I think we have to be more specific about. Well, you were talking about
what should
alcoholic.
be free? What bad person should be free?
We were going under the assumption of an alcoholic.
Who abuses his nephews. You not hear that part, bro?
And I said that if someone's abusing their nephews, I wouldn't want them around my children. That doesn't mean they don't get to eat and live like a human being.
But I'm saying if they're coming to you, that means that they're free, and knowing the knowledge that they're abusing their children. Well, you're telling me you're not gonna call the cops, the authorities, or put them in prison?
It's a totally different conversation.
Yeah, exactly. You just you're like.
But that's what I'm saying. I don't believe that I should feed somebody that I know is gonna continue doing harm
because their nephews
sustaining their life.
But the nephews are also
their nephews. I'm gonna feed their nephews, sure. Take their nephews in my custody. But why am I feeding somebody that's gonna abuse people?
But that again, you're changing the conversation. It's not now. We're no longer talking about disowning. We're saying, are you going to help the children that are being hurt?
No. You're talking. I'm countering your example. I'm saying that
you're not.
I'm literally saying since you are going to help the person that you disowned by feeding them, that is helping them. I'm saying that in itself is a bad thing. And
but the reason you're going into is changes the conversation. You're saying, would I feed them so they can continue to harm children? No, wait, let me just finish. I could call the cops on them without disowning them. I could say that this behavior is completely irrational because there's children being hurt, but that doesn't mean I disown them. That means you need to go get your act together.
So you're saying you're gonna feed them, and then while they're eating, munching on food, they're gonna call the cops to take them. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, that's cool.
What just happened?
I don't know where you got there, but yeah, I guess yeah.
What if they weren't abusive? What if they were just drug addicted? And there's all sorts of problems.
Drug addicts should always receive help, no matter what. If they're not harming anyone else, it's just harming themselves. They should always receive help.
So that's your line.
What if drugs lead you to do violence?
Drug addicts, abusive drug addicts. What about?
That's what I said.
Yeah, I said if they're abusive, if
they're abusive, then yeah, they should still receive help. But if you're committing abuse onto other people, you're still deserving of punishment.
And I guess the question is whether that punishment necessarily has to come from the parents, right?
If it's only because of being like drug addict and they know, hey, I need help with this drug stuff. I'm just an addict. Not like I really love drugs and I'm never gonna stop. You know what I'm saying? There has to be a willingness to stop. If you're not willing to stop, that means you're enabling yourself, right? And I'm not saying don't try, because there's some people that enable themselves, don't want to stop, but then after people try over a period of time, they'll be like, okay, I see the light. But then if you've tried and they still don't get the point, then I think you should. That's the extreme point where they've crossed over the line of no return.
This is a kind of a different topic, but I think that a lot of people don't realize when they're trying to help people, they're doing it in a way that they think would be helpful. And most often it's not what the person that you're trying to help needs.
How do you know?
Well, do they ever get better?
I'm saying, but you can never know. Like that's like begging a question. Like, how do you know?
Some people need church, dude. Like, there's no one answer for what makes people.
That's what I'm saying. You just don't know whether you're doing is right or wrong. Even if they don't get better, that could be like themselves. That there could be the answer of them not getting better is there's no answer to get them better. That could also be the answer.
I think it's always going to come back to support and community, and the way that a lot of us view our support is conditional and based upon things, which is what this reminded me of when you were talking about they want to do drugs and all this stuff. But like having conditions to that support is not helpful. And yeah.
Okay, so I wanted to try to refocus this. I think it's a valuable conversation, actually, and maybe something we should talk about specifically one day. But I want to refocus this back on parents and disowning their kids. So, Joe Lewis, you've been quiet. I haven't heard much from you. Like with what you've heard so far, like what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's a personal decision that everyone's going to have to make, and my decision is that I can see a world where I can disavow my child. That's kind of why I'm not contributing, because it's just like I can see that for myself, and like if others can't, then that's them. Like everybody's gonna have different lines on this and different reasons as to why they would, as to why they wouldn't. But what's up?
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say, can I dig into that? Like,
I mean, what's there to dig? Like,
well,
if my child's a murderer, I disavow them. If
no,
my
I guess
child was a drug
my
addict, I
question
might
is,
have a different.
I wonder why we're on different pages. Are you close to your family? Are you close to your parents? Like, I'm trying
And
to figure
my
out
my
why we're all.
relationship my relationship with my family is irrelevant to the conversation. It's
But
just
I
that
don't think that.
that's my opinion. My opinion is that I could see a world where I would disavow my children. That's my take. That my
But
have my family involved doesn't have anything to do with it, unless you
So
can.
I disagree
Unless
because I feel like it's
I'm a,
split.
It
yeah, I
really
just
has
want to
nothing
understand
to do
why.
with it.
Like, what does my family have to do with my position?
Well, like with D10, he also agrees with you, and he has been disowned by his family. So I don't
Okay.
know if there's like a bias here between all of us, not
I
just
think you
like,
think me experiencing a bad disowning would
we can
lead
address it
me
without
towards
addressing a
disowning
bias.
others?
We don't.
It would
We don't
lead
need
me
to
towards
deal
the
with
opposite, if anything.
sorry.
I'm wondering, Joe Lewis, do you think like it would be better for people to be disowned or worse for people to be disowned?
It's
Like,
a choice that
what
they
do you
have.
think
It's a
mostly like most likely to improve somebody's life?
it's gonna vary from individual
Depends
to
on the
individual,
situation.
and
Well,
it's gonna matter.
broadly,
Like,
what do you think broadly?
it's gonna vary from individual to individual.
Okay.
Everybody's point of radicalization and everybody's point of reformation is going to be different.
I'm fairly certain, like most, I feel like this isn't a controversial point, that when most people lose like access to family, friends, community, that like everything in their circumstances gets worse. That the more they're isolated,
Sure,
people they care about.
but
The more
But what
likely
if they deserve that?
wait, but the thing is that you had to add more to that to try to get to a position. Like the position I'm stating is, as an individual who could bear children, if my child were to do something, whatever it might be, I could see a world where I would disavow them. Like that's where I'm at on this. It's just exclusively from parent to child. Like we can talk
Would you
about
disavow
wider
them
community. Sorry, one more time.
Would you disavow them even if it was worse for the child?
Even if, it was what?
If disavowing them made their circumstances worse, right? Even if disavowing them made them more of an alcoholic, more of an abusive person, more hateful, more whatever the issue is, would you still disavow them?
That's my choice to make, and it had to be.
Disown
I'd have to look. If that's my choice to make, and it had to be. We'd have to find some context. We'd have to contextualize that.
I think the other reason why I have like such a hard line on this is for the majority of reasons we see people disavow children now, although we can see them as like super immoral. Like we also agree we're coming from an understanding of a subjective morality. Like if you're, for instance, when you're dealing with LGBT kids, I think that people who like disavow their children for being LGBT, I think this is super wrong. But from the Steelman best perspective of like the parent, they're disavowing a child who's literally like choosing to set themselves up for hell, who like in some ways, and for like atheist children, some way rejecting God, who you hold like over your parents. And I'm like I said, I'm a religious person. I don't agree with this, but I'm a religious person. So like it's not even hard from that moral framework to come to some personal justification for like a justifiable reason for why you made that disavowal. So if it's all on if the only standards is if they're doing something that we consider bad enough, which for a Christian rejecting God could be bad enough,
Can we
can justify anything.
I'm sorry.
How bad is it?
I'm sorry, Bam. Can we carve out like the reasons, like justifiable and non-justifiable for like disowning somebody? Like my kid comes out as gay, and I'm like, yeah, fuck you, fuck off. I'm a dick, right? There's like, hey, you're kind of an asshole. That's a line. But if my kid comes out as a child molester, well, maybe not child molester. Maybe we could zone that down. But you see what I'm saying? Like there's certain like lines somewhere that we're carving.
The line is simple. People have been saying the line this whole conversation. And you even said the line yourself in your opening statement, and I even pointed it out after I spoke after you. Do you remember what it was?
Everybody has different lines. I'm just asking what everyone's
line is after they don't want to change. They're stagnant in their position. They're never going to change, and they're continuing to do harm. That's the line. Like if you have no capacity to change,
yeah. I mean that's broad. Let's define that harm. Like if I'm asked my child to help me out with the bills. Hey, your mom's sick. She's not doing well. I need help. I can't pay for this treatment. We're running behind on the mortgage. My credit card bill's high. I need you to give me a few bucks every now and again. Help me out. And he's like, this ain't my problem, Dad. I got a job now. I got a career. I got a family of my own. I ain't gonna like. At what point is it like, dude, I need that help, and you're not there? Like, why should I continue?
Needing help and not there is not your child's responsibility. I'm sorry to add to your child is not.
It is absolutely for the reverse, right? The parent doesn't get to walk out when it's too hard to take care of the child.
That's not what I said.
I understand that's not what you said. I just responded.
Yeah. I'm not saying that you
opposite. It's true though that parents don't get to walk out from taking care of their child if it's too hard. So is it unreasonable for a parent?
Just owning your child. Hold on. Listen. If you need help from your child legally and morally has no obligation to help you.
Morals are subjective. Because I say, because you could say that like you don't want to help out your mom. We could say that's a morally.
A child doesn't have a moral obligation to help their parents when they're sick, when they're at risk of being homeless.
Absolutely. They're like these. I'm with Dream on this, where it's like, we can talk about how like, like the moral implications of what that means for an individual, but at the end of the day, it's still their choice to make. It's their choice to decide.
That doesn't say anything. Good parents.
It says it's their choice.
Okay. It says it's not a moral obligation. That's what having a choice means. It's not a moral obligation.
You can choose to do bad things. Nobody cares. It's a choice. Okay, you gotta have a good parent.
That means that's not what moral. That's literally not what moral obligation is.
I would love to get the sentence out.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Can I do that? Thank you. Good parent, there for their child, supports them in everything they do, pays for college, pays for university, helps that child get a life for themselves. You're telling me that child has no obligation to help their parents in an event those parents need help?
Yes.
Okay.
You need help. Your responsibility as a parent is to take care of your children. There is no responsibility for children to take care of their parents.
That responsibility for
different in different cultures. There is a huge responsibility.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who will take care of my parents when they're 70 years old and they're sick and they can't work anymore?
We hope.
Just because you do doesn't mean it's the responsibility that you have. Just because you do doesn't mean it's your responsibility.
I mean, like we see this now. We like historically it was daughters that cared for their mothers, and now we're in a point where society has shifted in such a way where that care, due to a bunch of different reasons, it could be societal, it could be economical, that can't be on the full onus of daughters. And then it expanded out to children. And like, okay, it's the children's quote unquote obligation to care for the parents. But we've seen in a lot of different contexts, we can have personal anecdotes if we want to talk about those. We can have external anecdotes that there's still like a higher level of care that the children cannot bring. Like, so I don't understand like, well,
we're talking about care the children can bring. Like, that's why I'm asking. It's like, hey, pitch in a few bucks, help me out, take care of your mom. I can't do it alone. I need this help.
People can make a decision not to do that based on a bunch of factors.
But I'm saying that the way we decide if a parent is good or bad goes farther than
material support.
Goes farther than material support. Like as long as like, oh, they're eating and they're eating and they're drinking. Like we could say that a parent has no moral obligation to help their child figure out financial aid for college. We could say that a parent has no obligation to help their kids get involved in extracurricular activities or do any type of like outside support. We could say that, but we just because their child is eating, we wouldn't say that someone's doing a good job of being a parent. So like when we say that like there's no moral obligation, like there's very few obligations in like an objective sense. So in moral, like the morality is super subjective when it comes to this.
All morality is super subjective. I'm telling you, families are good. Families are a good unit, right? Families are when cohesive, when good, when kept together, they provide security. They provide a foundation for guiding principles. They make people's lives better. I don't agree at all that children have no obligation to their parents while their parents have infinite obligation to their children.
Absolutely. I don't think parents have infinite obligation either, though.
Okay.
They just have the responsibility to give them the basic needs in order for a child to live.
They have obligations.
So
the obligation is to allow your child to actually live.
I know. I think this is. I think all of this just goes both ways, right? And that for the parent, they have a responsibility to their child to take care of their child. do more than, as Bam correctly pointed out, do more than just like allow them to eat and drink, right? Keep them alive. It requires a level of emotional support from that parent, like of love. These are like ingredients that a child needs to grow up in a healthy manner, right? So it's a parent's obligation to support their child in a healthy manner. And on the other end, I think that a child who received that, right, who got all that stuff, at least to the best of their parents' capabilities, that they should have the responsibility in return, right? That like, you've taken care of me, I will take care of you. However, this responsibility is not permanent and unchanging. So if a person does, if one of the parties does something that is irredeemable, then it makes sense that you would break that relationship, just like in any other relationship. You would break that relationship, saying that this is too much, and I need to separate you from my life. And I guess and then from there, my only quibble would be about like what exactly that action would be. But
I'm okay. Even if I accept your framework as what it is, do you at least hold them to there's different thresholds based on the relationship? Like the things that would take you to cut off your parent would be a higher threshold than the thing that would take you to break up with your girlfriend or to stop being friends with a person you went to school with.
Depends. It depends. It depends on like in terms of my parents, right? Like, did they give me all those ingredients to grow up to be a healthy child, right? Like, if it was just to keep me alive, then, and for some reason I still maintained a relationship with them, then the threshold would be lower to get rid of them. If they've done everything for me, which my parents have, then it would be take quite a lot for me to say, then I'm cutting you off completely from my life.
Okay. Dream, you agree with that? Disagree?
Agree with what exactly?
Well, what Prime just said.
What do you say?
Oh, that basically, like, even though you say that, like, okay, it's okay to cut off parents, like, if the parents have attempted to do a decent job of being a parent. Ooh, oh my goodness, my bad. The threshold for cutting them off would be way higher than it would be for like a significant other or just like a friend.
The what would be higher?
The threshold, like what it would take for you to cut them off.
Yes.
Like what they would have to do. Mm-hmm.
Actually, it depends on what age I am. Like if I'm still a minor, yes. But if I'm a grown man thinking adult, no. Depends how close I am. Because for me personally, I'm as close to my girlfriend as I am with anyone else. So there's no threshold higher for me to cut off anyone else other than my girlfriend. That's different to me. So there's no objective thing about it. It's all about your preference.
I think LSP was trying to get to that. Like, what is everyone's preference on this?
I'm talking about moral obligation. So there's a difference between you can have a preference to do something. When I say there's no moral obligation, means that you do not have to do this in order to be called a good person.
Yeah,
I would preferences and then there's moral obligations.
Any action or inaction you take that makes the world a worse place is immoral. Is immoral to do, right? You have a moral obligation to make the world a better place. I think that
it depends, but it depends what you mean, worse or better. That's the seed, and that's itself is subjective.
I gave you a very easy example where it would demonstrably be worse, right?
Like what?
What, like the father who's at threat of being homeless because the mom's sick and he can't pay the bills anymore, despite being a good father, and the kid just saying, "Yeah, fuck you."
And yeah, fuck you, just because there's no reason.
Because he doesn't have he doesn't want to, because he's got other plans, he's got other obligations. It doesn't feel like
right,
whatever reason.
And you don't know whether or not those actions are objectively better off or worse. First of all, if the father lived off his life and he's raised,
we can just kill this. If it's worse, then they should help, right? Sorry.
But it's not objectively worse. That's what I'm trying. This is what I'm trying to explain.
I'm saying if it is, they should help, right?
but it's not worse. What's worse is
Yeah,
subjective.
We can design the
Hold on.
hypothetical.
Listen. It's worse to the father that he's homeless, but it's better for the person, the child, to keep the money and advance his endeavors.
What?
Okay.
I mean, if that's how we're judging it, then
What
yeah,
if
the
it was a
greed
Wall
is
Street
good.
example-
CEO?
For
I'm curious,
example,
what if it was a Wall Street
what's the
CEO?
difference?
He didn't want to
What's
take
the
care of it.
hold on, because I don't think one person's life matters more than others objectively, right? You understand, right? So my life doesn't matter more than yours, and your life doesn't matter more than mine.
Well, you know, this
Right.
isn't how relationships between human beings work. Like you know, but it would be
That's
happier
why I'm
if
talking about his preference, right? So you prefer your mother versus me, even though objectively your mother does not matter more than me. You understand what I'm saying? Black American man?
Black. You know what I'm saying? Saying
Right.
black.
Your mother's objective life does not matter more than mine. But to you, she means the world to you, correct?
yeah.
So what I'm saying, objectively, the son not taking care of his father the same way he wouldn't take care of a random homeless person. There's no obligation to that person. No more obligation. Now you can say that there's a maybe a familial expectation obligation, something like that, or like a tit
I
for
don't
tat
understand
obligation.
why we're in these weeds. Like this is not how humans interact.
I think I see something.
Okay, Joe Lewis, then Smash.
Yeah, I think the question, like the root question of this, like the root question of the topic, is very individualistic, which is going to lead to very individualistic responses to that question, which it makes sense. If a question's individualistic, then the answers are going to be individualistic. And the reason why I've been kind of staying quiet is that I don't really want to spend too much time on the acts of individuals anymore, when we understand that the economic conditions will determine social conditions. So if there's something individualistically that we consider undesirable, well, what are the conditions that lead to that undesirable outcome? I think that's a bit more complicated of a question, which could lead to more complicated answers. Because once we get to the rubber hitting the road of a father potentially being homeless because of some factors, and they go to their son or daughter for help, that's ignoring so many conditions prior to that led to that outcome. So we're looking at the very like final point of like, well, what would you do here? And it's like, well, maybe we can pull back a little bit and put these institutions that we live under on a bit more scrutiny, the same type of scrutiny that we would on the individuals in this case.
I mean, yeah. Oh, you can go.
Yeah. So I does anyone have a bounce off Joe's? Because mine's gonna take it somewhere else, I think.
Well, I'll okay. Let me engage Joe for a second, then I'll go to you, Smash. Then, so talking about the institutions, I mean, yeah. Look, well, I think it's fine to come at it from this perspective. It's not like we don't talk about those institutions all the time, right? And those economic circumstances that lead people to be in those areas, right? So, talking about the incident of the those kids killing that old man, you could say that while there was a whole list of failures in terms of like our society, in terms of like economic opportunities that maybe led to parents having to be absentee because they just have to work a lot, or because of some sort of because of lack of money within that neighborhood. It caused some people to like become drug addicted, right? Because they don't have those opportunities, and they turn to drugs, and so they aren't as able to take care of their kids, or because of the war, because of our incarceral state, some of those parents might have been locked up, so they're not around to take care of their children, to teach them a better way, or like, you know, the shattering of cultural expectations in certain neighborhoods that where the behavior of their kids is like, it's acceptable for your kids to act in certain ways. Like, you know, there's a whole list of things that we could talk about, sure, right? and they factor in, but they that like it factors into like every life.
Yeah.
And in the end, right, we are who we are. We are the accumulation of those things, and they can be really sad, really unfortunate. But like, I'm talking about like once you've grown up, well, once you've experienced all that, right? Like, can a person, a father, a mother, like make that decision that we've gone as far as we can with this kid, or they've done something just so immense,
Yeah.
immensely wrong. Go ahead.
Yeah, and that's why I took I will always take the stance of like individuals are going to make decisions based on the contextual factors that they're under. Now we can say that, hey, disavowing your child is an undesirable outcome, and I'm saying that there are a bunch of conditions that led to that. So we should like focus on those before we start like nitpicking and judging the individual actions of people. Like for example, like in the article that you cited in terms of the U.S. family who disowns a white supremacist son, like he was white supremacist long before he ended up into that rally. And then the question is like, okay, what were the conditions that led to that, and how were those conditions, and how did those conditions manifest itself in such a way that parents didn't even know they existed? And this is why like we're trying to understand better why young men and boys go down these radicalization pipelines on Reddit, 4chan, Discord, and all these other websites, because we are now saying like, oh, there are conditions and signs for these young men and boys going in these places. And they go in these places so much so that parents don't even know that it's happening until they're at the rally, until they bring the gun that you legally purchased to a school. And that's something that I'm a bit more focused on personally.
Yeah.
So,
Why- Yeah.
Facing though for like community and support, which kind of brings us back full circle.
Well,
No.
community support is one part of it. I think that also, when I think of support, I'm thinking of making sure parents understand. If I'm using the rally example, like understanding like how the internet operates in the 2022 landscape, how you dissect and understand information online, and broadening that from an educational standpoint, and having that exist in the schools where like children and young adults are learning how to interact and interface on the internet as it's currently presented, how we understand information on the internet. And I know like those are kind of like broad and unattractive, because moral conversations are really fun, and I get it. But at the same time, I am wary of these individuals are going to make these choices based on their contextual factors. I just want to look at the contextual factors.
But it's like
So-
at some point people have to you turn me into a conservative, right? At some point people have to take responsibility for their actions, right? So yes, this
I don't
Yeah.
think it's conservative, bro. That's
they're-
that's real world.
they're contextual. Well, I'm more of the only other side, right? Like focusing on like things that have led them here. But I feel like there's an inflection point, right? And we're focusing on that inflection point. That like, yeah, life is shitty to you. And things happen, right? Like I don't know. I see your point. Look, if let's say, all right, so let's take the Highland Park shooter, right? If that individual was the recipient of like massive like abuse growing up as a child, right? Like physically abused, mentally abused, right? And then they ended up taking that out on the general population, killing so many individuals, right? Then it's fair to say, yes, that recontextualizes everything. And like if their parent would then come out to say like, oh, I disowned my child for doing this thing, and it's like, well, you're a shitty human being. So I hear you on that. But I guess.
Well,
I guess-
let's poke on that for a second, right?
Okay.
So we're giving a situation where, because of physical and emotional abuse, this child led down a road that led to an outcome. And I'm saying, and I guess like one question I have, and which is be important to explore, is okay, what were the conditions that allowed for that physical and mental abuse to exist in the first place, because parents don't. And I'm going to assume that, like, we'll say in this context, because I don't know the situation at the Highland Park of like the personal stuff of, like, let's say it's the parents that were doing that. Okay, well, what allowed for that to happen in the first place, right? Like, were there? And apparently Google's trying to answer the question for me. Like, there's warning signs as to why these things were happening, and then it's like there's like different nexus points, right? There's like the knock on the door of the social worker, and the social worker not doing a proper wellness check. It's the school official that sees the abuse and sees the signs of the abuse but fails to report it to proper superiors. There is the parental figure, maybe someone within the familiar system, that comes in and sees the abuse and then rationalizes it and justifies it and then normalizes it. And then that way it just becomes something that's just a consistent trend. And those are things I think are important, because those little shifts, like, those are the nexus points for me, because like those are the things that allow for new nexus points moving forward. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got a question, and this is for Joe. Do you and I'm positive you spoke about this on stream, but just like for the sake of you not want to talk about it, I'm gonna be really vague, and you can just tell me to shut up. Do you think that like this? Do you feel like your answer to this question is influenced by your personal familial dynamic?
No.
Okay, so is it like you really thought this out?
Well, I mean, I guess to answer it a little bit, I'll do the best I can. Like, yeah, I would say like a point of my radicalization on this situation. Definitely, you could say like my family influenced me on that. Like, I do have my family as a radicalization point for me here, but my radicalization point led me to the conclusion that individuals are going to make decisions how they see appropriate contextually. So, for instance, if my child, like, listen, like, I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, I'm like, if my son comes out to me and says, like, Dad, I'm a deer, I'm never gonna call him my son ever again. I'm gonna call him my fawn. But I got him. But it's just contextually. But again, like, to be fair, right? Like, at the same time, right? In that nexus point, in that situation, like, if we want to like drill on like the deer meme, right? Like, if my child comes out to me and unironically identifies as a deer, I'm just gonna be like, okay. But that my okay, my like what's it called, one punch meme okay might be totally different for another person in a different set of context. And for me, it's like, okay, both of these things are possible, and I'm just kind of like, okay, like, these are just actions individuals can make.
I just assumed that like the value you put on blood would probably be different.
I think that the people who care for us and the people who love us, if I were to make a moral thing, we want that to be the same individuals. Like, we want our blood relatives, our blood family to be the same people that love us and nurture us. And in America, especially, that's not always the case, where sometimes you can be in a situation where your blood relatives and your blood family are causing observable harm to you. And then you have to make a determination of like, do I value this blood relationship more than my personal well-being? And then also, what type of mental rationalization and justification am I going to make in order to allow this to keep going? Like, you can have, like, because we've seen this, and we can go in a lot of examples, right? Like, we see this happen all the time, where like you could have a victim of abuse go back to their abuser, and then as a passive observer, it's like, I can't believe like she stayed in that relationship for so long. I can't believe that. It's disgusting. I would never do that. And it's like, well, you've never been tested like that. So, and maybe your test is totally different than theirs, and the cert and the conditions and all that stuff, like all the soup in there is totally different than your soup.
My soup's chicken.
Yes, chicken soup is delicious. But I guess to short, because I have been talking for a bit, it's that the reason why I'm kind of like not too like, I don't say interested in individual actions, because individual actions are still like an important thing that we should observe. But when it comes like the familiar thing, the idea of like, is it okay to disavow your children? I'm of the stance of it's a decision that a parent is gonna make in whatever context. Like there are parents who, in the face of their child going to a white supremacist rally, watching Richard Spencer interview Stardust and say, "Yeah, I side with him, bro. This is what I want to do," and then their parents go, "Oh, that's so nice. He seems like a good guy," but you know, you got to be careful. Like different parents are gonna make different decisions. On their children, and I'm like, that's cool. It's like that. Welcome to America. We allowed this. We allowed this to happen.
Okay. No,
But-
Smash had a different point that they
Yeah.
wanted to make.
Oh, it doesn't really
No.
matter now. I was just gonna bring up like the golden rule and how we're supposed to treat people the way that we want to be treated.
I think that's no, I mean, I think that's fair. That yeah, we want to that's this is a society we want to promote, right? And so if someone has treated you a certain way, and I actually I really like that you brought that up, Amanda. Now the more that I think about it, because it kind of more succinctly lays out like what I was saying previously, right? Like if a person has treated you a certain way, then you should treat them that certain way. So if they have treated you well, being your parents, taking nurturing you properly, right? Then you should take care of them, right? Treat people.
That's not how it works, Prime.
Treat people how you want to be treated, not how they treat you.
Yeah, but I know, but I'm like
Okay.
like reversing it.
No.
Uno
For example, I'll
reversing
give you an
that.
example where this case doesn't work.
Okay.
For example, like your neighbor is really good. They always come over. They always cook for you. They always, you was down on your luck, and you was poor, and they gave you money because they wanted to. This does not mean you automatically have to do the same thing when it's
No one's
Well, no one's saying you have to. We understand that no one can force you,
And I'm
but we
saying
can say that you a dick for like if you
you're
have
not
it.
a dick, but you're not a dick for not. For
I
not
think you're a dick if you got it, if you can.
But there's no moral. That's what I'm saying.
I think you're a dick just because you don't do exactly what they do. I mean, everyone
what I'm
has different
saying.
needs and
No.
necessities, and
But
yeah.
no one's drawing a ridiculous line of saying it has to be exactly that. Like if your parents took care of you for 18 years, I'm not saying that you have the responsibility of taking care of them for exactly 18 years. In fact, I would say like you should take care of them longer, right? As long as they need you. If they're taking care of you well, right? If they like literally threw you out at your 18th birthday, then maybe not. But yeah, but I'm just like contextually. So if you're talking about neighbors who like were like kind to you and just out of the goodness of their heart helped you out like, when you were down, right? Yeah, like I would you would make the effort. Like you may not even have the ability to like repay them in exactly the same way, but we wouldn't say that because like if your neighbor happens to be awfully wealthy, right? And then when they're down, they're way farther down than you are, right? Like it's a much farther fall. Like it'd be impossible for you to raise them back up to the level they were previously at, right? And you can't be asked to do that. But like if they do need help and after they've done so much for you, yeah, I think you do have an obligation to assist them.
But not a moral obligation. You might have
moral,
some familiar.
Moral.
That's what.
Hold on. Let me tell you.
I don't think you know what moral means.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I do know. Moral obligation means you must do something, or else you're a bad person. That's what moral obligation means, or else you're immoral.
But that morality will always be up to the individual.
No. There's
all morality is up to individuals.
That's what I'm saying. No,
I'm talking about
agreeing.
objective morality. And objective morality means if you don't do this, you should probably be in jail somewhere.
Like, you believe in objective morality? You believe that there's one good in the world and one bad in the world?
No. There's one objective good, and then there's multiple subjective goods.
Exactly. Based. I don't know what's going on. I have a question, Prime. What are your thoughts on, and this is like a question for everybody, I guess, because it's within the same realm of it. What are your thoughts on children emancipation? Do you I don't know how much experience you have with that process, or anybody does, but I'll kind of TLDR it. Where it's basically like in New Jersey, right? The idea is that once you are beyond and you're able to quantifiably prove that you're beyond, but I think what they call is like the sphere of influence of your family, you then can legally emancipate from them. An example that we saw of this recently was what's her name? She kind of looks like Ann Coulter. She used to work in the White House as a press correspondent. Blonde. I know it narrows it down to like 50 women in the Trump administration.
Yeah, no, I talking about like
Kellyanne Conway.
Yep.
Dominoes.
Her daughter disowned her. Yeah.
Yeah, because she was fighting for, I don't know if it followed through, but she was fighting for emancipation last time I checked. And I think personally, and not to load the question, but I think like that process can and should be easier for young adults to make. Children, young adults, what have you.
I don't think it should be super easy. That doesn't mean it shouldn't be realistically possible, but I don't want like on some. I don't believe you're saying on a whim, but like I don't want a 15-year-old or 16-year-old like they get in a fight with the parents and they're like, you know what, I'm out of here just because if we there's a reason we don't give minors rights for a reason, because we don't believe that they always can make the best decision for themselves, even though like I think for emancipation, if there's consensus on it, then sure. Like then if the parents agree to it, then sure. If there's not, I think that you're gonna have to demonstrate some level of physical, mental, like abuse, and that can be a thing. Is like conversion therapy, things like that. Like if for LGBT kids or whatever. Like I'm sure we can think up 1,000 justifiable reasons, but I think that there should be some standing to prove that. I don't think a 16-year-old should be able to just walk out because they had a fight.
Amanda, you want
Yeah, can I add to Joe's question for everyone? What about the parents being obligated to still like financially support the emancipated child?
Would that be any different than like child support though?
Well, probably not.
Would that
That'd be a based ass divorce though, am I right, boys? Yeah. Like I'm gonna emancipate from you, Dad, and you're gonna pay me, son. We're gonna legally obligate that shit.
But is there an obligation here?
That would be the biggest nerf to Herschel Walker's family.
I think the situation where a child might be emancipated from their parent is if the parent is like so abusive or neglectful or something that it justifies that emancipation. So yeah, I would say the parent has an obligation to financially support their child, even if that child is emancipated.
I mean, what does the support look like? Does this mean providing housing, or does this mean like I said, what child support looks like now, which could be from anywhere from a couple $100 a month?
I don't have like a concrete answer. It would just be whatever is best for the child's well-being. Like if it means like they need financial support, then financial support. If it means paying for like their housing, it means paying for their housing. I don't know like, a concrete answer for.
Yeah, but I'm saying like I don't think that like the majority of people, Americans, like just paycheck wise, will be able to afford another like a second apartment or something.
Yeah. Then badasses should get a second job. Then fuck them. I'm kidding.
Bum ass. Okay. No. Yeah. Totally.
But yeah, like if it was like due to some level of abuse and the child was if in that case, I think the child in that situation, I would generally recommend just foster care unless the child could prove some reasonable ability to support themselves, or if they had like some justifiable reason why they should be on their own.
What would the goal? What's I guess what I'm stuck on. What's foster care functioning for you in this capacity?
Like just because you have a bad family situation doesn't mean that you're in a position where you could capably and responsibly take care of yourself. Like you so a foster would stick in like, okay, this is still a child though. Like they're not ready to be on their own, even if they are 16.
Okay, so do you think that there should, and maybe I missed a part of it, I'm sorry about that. Like if a child were to be successfully emancipated from their parents, but they were able to determine that, hey, I did this thing for the betterment of myself, but I need a little bit more time, then foster care might serve as like a stopgap. I'll use that very loosely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like like they would, like, okay, do you have any type of savings? And they would say yes, no. Do you have any? Do you currently have a job? Are you able to get a job? Can you balance this school work whatever. And then like if these questions are leading to like, oh, okay, this child isn't ready for this, which I feel like the state will, like adults would need to answer. Like even if the child says like, I'll figure it out. Like I think the state will have to figure it out and say like, oh, okay, we can right now we're sending you to foster care, and if you can answer a few of these questions, we can re-review the case and whatever, and then like I said, buffer you and release you.
Yeah, I could see something like that. I guess like one thing, if we're talking about like parents and kids, something that I do support is, I know it's a very unpopular policy prescription for a lot of people, but give parents money.
Oh yeah,
Not like
absolutely.
like not
We do that to foster kids. They should do that to regular family owners.
we sort of do, right?
Right.
I
Not the
think
best
that
ways, but
like to give like a policy prescription or some type of like quote unquote policy prescriptions, I believe that we should give every family in America per child $800 a year for their education, for educational expenses, no matter what. Or if you don't want that trade, I'll take that off the table, and then you take off the table compulsory education and mandatory attendance in public schools. Like, if we're going to say that you're going to be 12 years a slave in the public school system, and then tell parents, hey, by the way, every year you're going to have to spend this amount of money so that your kids can have a good educational experience, that to me seems like a really weird trade. It's like you're required to be there, so fork up this money. And it's like, but what if I don't want to? It doesn't matter. So I think that maybe it could be higher, right? Maybe it could be $1,200. But I think $800 per month per child is a pretty decent start.
Per month per child? Oh, I thought you were talking about like yearly school.
Per year, sorry.
Okay.
$800 per year per child.
I know Amanda likes the per month scheme. Let's go with that one.
Per month scheme, yes. Damn.
You're
I was like, that's like 10 bands.
Amanda, you're muted.
Joe's thing just reminded me of like the child tax credit and all the benefits that happened when parents were getting a monthly income during the pandemic, and how it, like, I don't even know the percentages anymore, but brought so many kids out of
I think it was 50%.
poverty and food insecurity, all of that. So yeah, and I mean, even just switching the child tax credit to be monthly instead of when you file taxes would be amazing.
Yeah, because I guess like something that does drive like, oh, it was one of my fight, but like something that really further radicalized me was watching Governor Murphy have this whole press conference of self-suck around making a tax haven for school supplies for
Self-suck?
4 days. Self-suck. Like,
What?
blah, blah, like,
so it was what? Yeah, okay. I didn't know if it was.
So he made a tax haven for school supplies in certain retailers, and he was saying like, and then he said in the conference that this is going to provide a savings per family $30, like at minimum $30 of like $30 off their expenses towards back to school supplies, and I'm like, does this nigga just say that? In public, in front of everybody, $30 off school supplies, and the guy and just like, I mean, I guess that's something to be proud of. But meanwhile, like,
we got your binders.
Like I got binders and maybe, maybe like those really smooth Sharpie pens, maybe like
Ooh.
Because I think that, like, yeah, like on one hand, you could say like something that does bring a heavy burden on parents is the financial burden that children bring, and sometimes they're put into situations that parents have no choice but to fork it. And it's like, okay, if you're not able to do that, then what do you do? Like, if you're not able to spend the average, I think it's like of $800 per year on school supplies, what's a parent supposed to do?
That's crazy.
If you're not able to pay,
I don't spend 800, but I mean, that was like different. I'm sure there's a lot more. There's different expectations now. But yeah, $30 wouldn't afford it my like yearly JanSport so I could flex on the kids.
Okay. All right. So I feel like we're moving away from the topic.
Wait, what sort of dick flexes on kids?
Oh, other kids.
Well, again, like the reason why I brought that up, Prime, is that I do think that there are some levels of support, especially material support, that I believe the government needs to give to children and parents. where like we understand like, hey, like parents have to provide what they can, but then we put these barriers, right? Like that's why I said the argument of like compulsory education and mandatory attendance that says like, I know you have this kid and you have the best wishes for your child, but they have to go to school. And it's like, okay, sure, I get it. Like we structured it in such a way where it's like we partial it off
I
a
know.
bunch of other things.
I understand why
Yeah.
you brought it up. But like,
But he's
I
saying
feel
like,
it's-
how are we disavowing? Are we disavowing those kids after this?
like, yeah, we haven't like because it came from like it sprouted from the conversation about kids emancipating themselves, which I think is an interesting branch of this conversation. But
Can I just read Crystal Clear Art's comment? Because that shit is so libertarian, it's hilarious.
okay.
He said parents
Chi.
are also was
Chi.
that Chi? Sorry, Crystal Clear. Parents are also supposed to sacrifice their kids before turning to the government. I think that's a very libertarian comment. I just thought it was kind of fun. Anyway.
So yeah, I really wanted to circle back to like focusing on having God damn it, I got a DM on disavowing children, right? So focusing on that, it seems to me that when that it's a more complicated question than obviously than we had when we started off with, right? Understanding the context around that, right? Like if a child acts out like behavior that they've seen from their parents, right? So like if a child like becomes abusive,
Watches anime.
That is something.
That's on the child.
If a child becomes abusive after being abused by their parent, right, and the parent says, "Well, I disown you," then that seems actually probably better for the kid because you obviously shouldn't be taking care of them. But yeah,
Right.
like these things matter, right? This context matters. Fair enough. But I guess I want to draw the situation that most people are thinking of, right? I want to draw on that when we talk about something like this, right? A child that's growing up in a nominal environment, right? Not perfect, but a nominal environment for their class, right?
I went to school for music. Can you define nominal?
Oh boy,
I've never heard it in this context before. I know I'm really stupid. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so it
Bare minimum.
Yeah, it's not. No, it's not.
Okay.
No, it's not necessarily
not?
the bare minimum. But like, it
I'm
is
assuming normal.
normal.
I put nominal and I put an R in there and remove the N. Norm.
Why'd you use nominal?
Okay.
Just basic.
We got big words. We like
Yeah.
it. We use that sometimes.
I have the same. I do the same thing for my slurs. Sometimes I want to use an R. I take the R and move it right to
You
the
know,
end.
you move it around.
All right. So normal, fine, normal, right? Break it down for the kids out there. All right. So normal environment. And from there, like the parents did like their best, like within reason, right? Like by best, I'm not assuming they could provide their child with the best, right? Like because so many parents can't. But they did their very best, and their best, and by that I mean like their best equaled like abuse, because that's what some parents, that's what their best is. But it's normal. Okay, so within that a context, because most kids have a normal upbringing, right? There's a range, right, that we could probably describe as normal. Not perfect, but like a normal range of like experiences between parent and child. So of that cohort, which I think is a large cohort, there are going to be kids who do terrible fucking shit. And is it fair for those parents, right, in that cohort to say that I am disavowing that child, right? So, question to the people who said no.
Is it normal? Okay, you gave him a pretty normal childhood. The child did something, and I also like just adding this, I'm assuming we're excluding like any form of diagnosable mental health things. like
Uh,
them being a sociopath or anything like that. Like something that's like,
Does that change anything?
no, yeah,
I think,
like
I
I
think it
would
should.
include that. I would include that. Like, look,
Why
because
would
if you
that change anything?
Do you think I think that there's I think that there's a if you know that your child like brain doesn't have the ability to process empathy, I think that there's going to be a different like there could be actions and things that they say that don't come from a place of like they come from a place of literally just not being able to understand, just living in a different world. Like, oh, you know what? I hate them. It's like, no, you don't really hate. No, I think I hate them. Like I have no reason to to love puppies. Like, can we kill it? Like if you know, like if you like, okay, they're a sociopath. Like, then that's I don't know. I think I think it's
I
different.
mean, but like, yeah, okay. So there are sociopaths who don't hurt people, right? Like,
True.
well, physically,
I've,
right? They'll go into like fucking business, be a CEO,
Who?
and then hurt like a ton of people. But they don't hurt people in the direct manner that we end up talking about, that we end up actually judging in our society.
yeah, because I was watching I'm about I just know because I was my girlfriend, she loves documentaries, and I was watching one that this person was a sociopath, and they're saying like they had a child, and they were like, I don't love my child, like, but like they know like it's terms of society, they know that like, oh, okay, I'm supposed to keep this person alive and make them, you know, like I'm not supposed to hurt them, but like they're literally just following the tracks of what society tells them. And they say like, I don't have any emotional attachment to my child, and that's like a really weird thing to say, but like they were born that way.
Yeah, it happens. But okay, but understanding that like even if they're rather out of empathy, like I'm not going to like murder a team, not because I see him as a human being, right? Just because I know there'll be consequences and it's not worth it. So like so if I was that type of person, I'm not. But if I was that type of person, still, if I at some point decided differently that it was worth it. Or you know what, fuck it. I think I've had enough of this living thing, so you know, death by cop it is for me. And I killed a whole bunch of people. Again, within this normal range of like upbringing, then yeah, I think it's fair that a parent disown their kid. It doesn't matter if they're a sociopath, right? Like either by the fact that, at least in my opinion, either by the fact that they have a mental issue, or they uh and this is where I disagree with Dream, that they've made some like a series of horrible mistakes, right? I don't necessarily think that a person has to have like showing a capacity to change means like I can't disown them, right? Like some people, like you've gone too far, you've done something that's too wrong. I'm thinking of right now the do you remember the fuck, what's the name of the family? I'm blanking. Someone will help me though. That like Mormon, I think they're Mormons. I don't know. Type family, that Quiverful family that had like a shitload of kids who were Christians. And they had reality TV show.
Not
But
your
then
mom.
John and Kate plus 8.
no,
It was Kate?
no, not that one. They had a
Damn,
lot more
white people be
kids.
fucking, huh?
No, they had a lot more kids. Someone in the chat is gonna tell me this, the
Okay.
answer. But then their son, the Duggars, thank you, the Duggars. They're like they have a
Duggars?
huge family, yeah,
The
and
Duggar family. I remember that.
Buggers?
they're the Duggars. Like spell that right, okay? All right, you'll get different results. But the Duggars, like they had this reality TV show and it was going great for them, but it turns out their son had been one of their sons had been abusing their younger daughters, and this was huge, and it was a huge cover up. A whole list of things happened, but like I'm imagining like having a child that abused my other children, right? There could be a whole list of reasons as to why they did that. But if this abuse was severe enough, right? Even if like they have the capacity to change, right? They're not like a committed like pedophile or anything like that. Then I could still see myself saying no. Like we're done. Like, this is just too much. So to LSP to Smash to Bam, like what are your thoughts on that?
LSP doing what?
God, fuck.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear. I was busy
He
with.
said some people.
Yeah, he was
can
just
do-
asking. He's just asking. I'll answer, and then you'll catch on to what the question was. Yeah, I completely understand you wanting to making that call to like, okay, you know what, like my other children aren't safe around you. But again, this is just me. Well, it's not even just me personally. I believe that prescriptively, people should still exist as some form of parent to that other child, even after the action, even if it's from behind a jail cell, even if it's from a separate location, just for like safety concerns. I believe that like, oh, okay, like I hate what you did. That like honestly, but it's probably I may not be able to personally forgive that, but I love you and I want better for
And
you.
the same is true for the Highland Park shooter. Again, assuming a normal background.
Yeah. I
Okay.
would. I think his parents should love him regardless, even if they don't support him.
Okay. Go.
I,
You
I
go
find
Smash.
this. Sorry, yeah, I find this interesting. With the example that you gave, because I think it's really dependent on the family dynamic and the child that was abused in order to what's the best option for the child that was abused. Is integrating the abuser back into the family going to be less traumatic to the victim, or is it going to be more traumatic? And we always have to kind of weigh that. But
Go ahead.
so like, yeah, so I don't think I still wouldn't. I don't know about disowning though. Like, I don't know. Especially if it was a child on another child. I don't think I could disown my kids.
A teenager though, like, and I believe he was a teenager if I'm remembering the story correctly, right? A teenager, doing that to their younger siblings, and I don't know. It's not clear to me how severe the abuse was in terms of the Duggars. But like a severe case of abuse, right?
I think as a parent, you're still obligated to help the child. Now, even if they are.
I don't think you. Yeah, I see. I
do. I
don't
think
think
there
so.
is an obligation there. I think not only is it better for society for kids to always have support. I just personally don't think I could disown my children for really anything.
I don't know. John Duggar seemed. Or sorry, Joshua James Duggar. Jeez, easy. This case kind of.
They call him J Duggs for short.
I don't think they call him J Duggs. They call him. He's gonna get his ass beat in jail.
They call him a child porn afterwards. He actually.
Yeah, they'll put him. Yeah. He's gonna be in the same cell. He's gonna be in the cell that's on top of R. Kelly's cell. Because R. Kelly's cell is gonna be in the ground. It's gonna be underneath the gym.
That's where it belongs.
He got 12. He got 12 years. I hate this country. All right.
But yeah. So like, okay, so that's Amanda's opinion there. It's incorrect. No, I'm just kidding. And LSP then.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
I have no thoughts.
You weren't paying attention. All right. Great.
Yeah, he wasn't. It's literally your opinion.
But what if it's not harmful to disown your child for the other child?
Sorry. Like, I see.
Disown?
Like,
yeah.
Yeah, but then you weigh out the cost benefit analysis. What is causing more harm? It could be both harmful, but one causes more, and that's the one you would choose to.
But a lot of times, harm is future harm, and we don't know how that's going to play out.
Well, you can say the same thing about keeping them in the family, right? Like, giving that level of support. I'm seeing my parents like love and support this individual who abused me, right? Like this person who did something so terrible to me. And when my parents finally figured out what was happening, right? They still, despite all that, are giving this person love, and all I can remember is the abuse. So like you could be causing harm that way.
That's, I don't know. I feel like that's more of a trauma response type of thing.
But hold on, you're concerned about the trauma though, right? That's what you're concerned about.
Yeah, but that's
response doesn't give you an excuse to act any way you want.
No, Amanda. Yeah, that's not what I was saying. I was saying that that resentment you see. No, I wouldn't call it a trauma response, but there's like resentment and stuff that I think would take obviously like therapy and things like that to like work through. So when you're deciding to continue to have this relationship, you need to make sure that the victim is involved in this process and going steps, yeah, so to minimize harm. Sorry.
Yeah, I just feel like that was okay. So what that sounds like to me, and maybe this is not what you're saying, so you can correct me, right? But what it sounds like to me is that like the resentment is a thing that happens, but that is something that needs to be corrected, right? Rather than being a natural response. So like you're saying, go to therapy to deal with resentment to your abuser, right? And then you'll come out on the other end like
With
quote
your
unquote
parents.
fixed, right?
Resentment with your parents, not the abuser,
Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't realize
for
that.
having that relationship.
Well, yeah, well, yeah, sure. But still, no, yeah, and you know what? I'll even go with that. Being resentful to your parents. But I feel like that's a natural response. Hey, this person hurt me. If we take away the familiar relationship, and there was an abuser, and then your parents like forgave him, like there are some people who are like actually follow like those supposed Christian morals, and like forgive people who victimize them, like severe crimes. They like forgive them. Like I'm gonna love this person. You'll see it on the news story. There'll be like a human interest story that despite victimizing this person so severely, they still found in their ways to like love and forgive them. If you saw your parent doing that, a person, not a family member, right? But someone who's giving you severe abuse, and they're telling you like, yeah, this is what we got to do. We got to overcome these things, right? And you got to go to therapy to overcome these things. Like, I think that would be a terrible message, and I think it'd be fair to someone to resent them for that.
That happens all the time in like
Uh,
black families that I've heard. Like the uncle abuses the daughter, and the daughter's like, "Hey, my uncle's being abusive," and then the family's like, but that's just uncle. He's sorry. We're just still gonna keep him in the house, and that does even tremendous and more amount of damage to the daughter. That feels like her voice is not heard and not appreciated in that household.
I think that there's like there's no easy way of dealing with these really complicated situations. I wouldn't say that like okay like putting that cross on you like the victim like okay this is how you need to handle this situation. But I think that and I hold this true for familiar relationships and friend relationships. I think that y'all's dynamic is a lot of time y'all's own battle. Like I can't tell you how to feel about someone, but like I said, if this is involving my child, another one, my child, like even if that's something you can't get over, I'm still gonna love my child, and if they're also my child, and I'm still gonna like have some level of care and support for them, and that's really hard to deal with. But that doesn't mean I love you any less, and that doesn't mean that I'm like minimizing your thing, and that doesn't mean that you have to be okay with it, and you need to love them, and you need to be there with them in that same way. But yeah, I think that's very specific. Mhm.
Sorry. I also hate that this is the premise that we're going with, that it's automatic that this is how it's going to be, because it could be the exact opposite, and disowning a child could be extremely harmful for the victim, which was my
True.
point at the very beginning. So it's very individualized, and Prime, are only looking at one side and saying that this is how it is. The child's going to be hurt at this relationship, but the child could very well be hurt that the other one was disowned.
No,
I'm
Amanda.
assuming he's just pushing our threshold
Yeah, Amanda, I
because
brought
we're the
that
ones
up
that keep saying no.
because
My
you
bad.
were saying I brought that up because you were
Okay,
saying
I
that
get it. Okay, that makes sense.
yeah that like that saying that there are two sides to this, that there might be another response. You were saying you
So
were worried
you're
about future
specifically
harm.
asking me if the other child was harmed by the relationship I had with my other child. Should
Yeah.
I still disown or not disown? Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, same answer. Couldn't disown any of my kids.
But yeah,
Okay,
but
so
I
then
wouldn't
it
like that.
doesn't
But I
matter.
wouldn't play
So then
you.
it doesn't matter what the trauma is, right? Like you said that before. Like we have to keep that in mind, right? Like
Yeah, but that's
but so
because
it
there's
actually
going to be
doesn't matter.
obviously steps to negate those feelings of resentment towards me. Hopefully, we can reduce
Well,
that harm.
them and the abuser, because the abuser is still in the family dynamic. Then, if you're not getting rid of them, if
Just
you're not
because I don't
disowning them.
disown my child doesn't mean that they're in the family dynamic, I guess, completely. Like,
Yeah, that dynamic could change.
yeah,
We,
the
we
dynamic
feels
can
like we need to
definitely
define
change.
disown here.
I'm sorry, LSP.
Feels like we need to define disown a little more narrowly here.
I
Well,
guess Amanda's making the difference between disown and enable, right? Like, that's what you were trying to do before. That like, that means like you could toss them out of your house, and like not financially support them, right? So like this abuser child gets tossed out of the house. The victim child stays in the house, and they're not inside the family dynamic. But if I know that you are still having contact with this person, and you say to your friends, yeah, I know they did something terrible to my son did something terrible to my daughter, but like I still love my son, then like I think it's fair to the daughter to that like that is in itself a level of like re-traumatization to the daughter, right? So like anyway, so like disavowing would be the better way. Like I had nothing to do with this individual because their harm was so great.
I think at that point, if the child is the abuser is in a safe environment themselves and can be, then maybe there'd be like a time period of cutting off that dynamic for a while, and working through therapy and going through all this so that eventually that dynamic is fixed as it can be.
So
And I
are
don't know
we?
any therapist that would like whose recommendation would be like, okay, yeah, you need to hate this child now. Like this is gonna make the situation better. Like I don't know any place like that solves anything. Like
I'm yeah, so like I've been part of child abuse victim groups, and this is a topic that gets brought up a lot, and how yeah, therapists are always saying kind of, yeah, you did just lots of therapy. You can't just toss one of your children out because they hurt the other one.
So are we? I guess like functioning that disavow is like some type of, I want to say denial, but like the removal of social and economic support. Is that how we're kind of moving?
I'm
It's
going to
not
like no communication, like completely like yeah,
that's
Yeah.
completely
crime.
exclusive.
Yeah, that's how
Gotcha.
crime.
So do you think it's so? Can we disavow somebody? So then I guess what I'm trying to ask here is that so we can disavow somebody socially or economically or both.
I think the disavow would have to be both, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So, hon,
Um.
I want to ask before I get to you. I want to ask William on the other end, right? Because you've talked about this before, Amanda, and I'm not sure if anyone else here has, but like disavowing your parents, right? So, you have I'm familiar with your past, so I'm not going to use specifically your example. But if a person, parents had like again their parent-child interaction has been nominal or normal, right? Has been normal, but then your parents do something terrible, right? You found out that your dad was that CEO who actually made like literally millions of people homeless, yeah, because they're actually in a financial crisis, right? Or that maybe for profits, they're poisoning people, right? Like people have been poisoned, have gotten like some cancers or whatever, right? And they've done immeasurable harm. Or maybe that turns out your father, while he treated his family correctly, right? Like had like rapist urges and was doing that to like women outside. Like there's a whole list of like terrible things that like that didn't impact you as a child, right? And they took care of you, but still, like I would
Good
think
parent,
are
shitty
pretty
human.
unforgivable. So, okay, can you like can you disavow them for that?
Yeah, I think
That's a good.
disavowing parents or any other family is relatively easy. Not okay, not easy, but in comparison to a child, you specifically like my child, and I'm not exactly sure why. I don't know if it's because I carried them and I have this bond and attachment. I've raised them, as opposed to and yeah, I've like I said, I mentioned earlier, I've disavowed my mom for some time. I also have completely cut off contact with my sister after years of dealing with her chaos. And yeah, for some reason, it's just when it comes to my kids, I
I think
can't.
jumping. Oh, sorry.
Here, I'm done. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just saying, like, I had imagining a worst scenario possible. Like, I just went to the furthest extreme. I assumed, like, oh, okay, could I imagine if Hitler's kids had lived? Could I imagine Hitler's kids like saying, like, oh yeah, that was pretty effed up, like, and like openly defending them? No,
Try
I
using
could.
Mussolini's kids because that actually happened.
Oh, okay. Well, sure, same thing. Like, could I see them like openly, like, being super defensive of them? I think that would be kind of weird. Like, I think that would be like, it would be okay to say, like, no, they're a pretty effed up person. But would I say that person those children would have to like sit in the situations and like let people have these conversations about them being like a demon, even if through justifiable means? Like, no, I don't think the kid has to like tolerate that and accept that. I think they can, like, what, like, there's a lot of people really, really hurt by this, and justifiably so. But this isn't good for my mental health, especially because of the dynamic that I have. Like, I need to. I don't have to. I don't have to be a part of these conversations. So I'm gonna like remove myself from the situation. Like, they can still be your parent, but that doesn't mean you don't acknowledge that they're horrible people.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, they don't have to be the part of those conversations. I guess the point is that, like, if we're saying, if Amanda is, and I guess it's more focused on Amanda, but like, it's definitely open to everyone else. But like, if you're saying that, like, a parent could do something, despite like being a loving normal parent, right, can do something so terrible as to that warrants a disowning from the child, right? Like, instead of, like, for this Highland Park shooter, instead of being the child, they're the parent. And again, like, didn't abuse their kid, but just decided to like slaughter other people's children. Then it seems like fair that it would be the other way around. I don't see why the relationship is different. The other way around.
I just kind of figured it out. It's because my children rely on me and I'm their caretaker. And so I have some sort of responsibility and obligation that I personally feel, as opposed to, I don't have responsibility for my mom. I didn't raise her. I didn't take care of her. She was supposed to raise me, take care of me, that kind of thing. So there wasn't, and same with sister, right? I didn't raise my sister. I didn't take care of her. So I think that's probably what distinguishes with that.
Yeah, this is why I wanted to separate it from your family situation, because I know, like, they've been pretty terrible, like, growing as you grew up. So like, that's why I'm talking about, like, a person who's grown up in a nominal family, and their parents or maybe even siblings, right, have done like an act, right? This one act that was so terrible, right? And then, like, it recontextualizes the relationship to the point where I don't want to be associated with this person. So I can imagine my parents doing this. So my parents raised me, in a normal range, right? Like, I have my complaints, but still I can't say that my parents were bad parents.
Well, my
And I say that
because I still have that obligation to my children, my personal own obligation or responsibility to my children that is completely
they're
different than
adults,
having that.
but they're adults now, right? Like, they're 25-year-olds.
But I was still responsible for their upbringing and their actions and the way that they behave.
So you see their actions as an extension of you, even the bad ones. Like, and that sucks, and that's probably toxic, and you'll probably need therapy for that. But like, if they did something really bad, like, it would, for you, you're saying for yourself, it would be impossible for you to completely disconnect yourself from, like, I must have had some, some responsibility. I had something to do with that led them to that point. And that, like I said, that's toxic, but I would feel the same way.
But you shouldn't
Like,
necessarily.
Is it toxic though?
It could be, because maybe you didn't have anything, because your children, and I don't have to explain this to you, Amanda, right? Like, your children aren't and
they have 1,000
actual extension from you, right? Like, they're not an outgrowth of you. Like, they have their own little minds, right? And they have lots of influences. You are a large influence, but their friends are an influence. Their environment is an influence. Like, what, like terrible things that may happen. They may experience trauma completely outside of your control, and then that influences them, right? And then this all adds up to a person who's going to make a decision in a moment, right? And some of them are ones that they shouldn't be, they shouldn't do. So
Even if what you're saying is true, I think that a parent that makes that does that is like I don't know, a parent that would say that I feel like is probably failed in some area. Like even if what you're saying is objectively true, there are obviously other influences, but a parent that could say like, "Oh, they ain't got nothing to do with me. I didn't teach him to do that." Like a parent that could make that come to that conclusion, I feel like probably failed in other areas as a parent. Like because I think that's what a decent parent, even if they didn't, would feel like it was on them. But
Yeah. I think that you're acting like them becoming adult takes away the entirely like responsibility of raising them or like an obligation that you have to like I think when you become a parent you automatically have an obligation to love and support this child and it doesn't go away because they turned 18 or because they're 25.
You have an obligation to love and support them.
So does
That's
disowning
to
mean no more loving and support? Because that's disowning is, right?
you have an
I'd
obligation.
chalk it up as that.
You have an obligation to love and support your children until proven otherwise.
Yeah, if they're little shits, fuck them.
Fuck them kids. True.
Until it comes to a point where you shouldn't. And this is what this whole topic is about. You have the obligation until you don't.
But I'm saying, again, we've gave 1,000 scenarios. Some of them are really, really bad. But I don't understand how any of these situations deciding like, okay, I no longer love you made any of these situations better. Like it just doesn't seem like it
doesn't have to make like are you
it's better for you.
Are you immoral for doing it, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think in all these situations I would still say yeah.
Is there like a 3 strikes rule for parents? Like, shouldn't it have to kind of build up to this
Three strikes rule when anything sucks. It's not a good thing.
I got 0.
I don't think it does.
0 tolerance policy.
Yeah, you can have a 0 tolerance policy for some things, right? I have a 0 tolerance for mass murder. So if my kid mass murders, then I'm done with them. I'm sorry, right? Like
I'm on
crime. What if your kid was Barack Obama and he launched a drone strike and it accidentally killed a whole bunch of civilians? So you'd like, fuck that guy, kid.
I kid you not, but I'm going to be having a different conversation.
Did he have the choice
to not drone strike people?
A lot of times presidents don't even have the choice because that.
Yeah, they do.
That
they got a
general.
choice. The generals aren't in charge. They're in charge. We have civilian control of our military. The generals aren't in charge.
What if your son was an executioner?
If my
hold on, wait, how far are we going with it? Does he go in the full like garb? And he stands on top of there with the
black hood, the black pointed hood, with the giant axe.
Listen. I believe that my children, for whatever, by any means necessary, they got to make that money. Okay, so if I just find out in the public sphere during the communist revolution, he's the guy up there, I'd be like, that's my son. He's up there guillotining Jeff Bezos. My man. But then he put me up there, and I look up to him. I start crying to be like, I'm proud of you, son. I'm proud of you. And then maybe we'll have that empathetic connection that Amanda's talking about.
That is romantic father. That's like ISIS when they like have their kids like execute somebody. It's like, oh, that's so warm and cute. Father and son.
You hear like Martha? It's like, Dad? Is that you under there?
Do you guys want kids? Sorry. No, I keep interrupting you guys when you're not done with your sentence. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. No, my girlfriend wants to have kids.
Your girlfriend does?
I'm on a clock. She said she wants to have kids before. Sorry, let me rephrase that. She wants to be proposed before her 30th birthday. Her 30th birthday is in 4 weeks, so I don't know what to do there. And she also wants to have kids when she gets married. So I'm putting a very tight box here, guys. Put a very tight box.
This is actually an amazing topic. Save it, Prime.
Okay,
your dick, dude.
I blast a lot of swimmers and socks, so I got to change my act.
Amanda, what's exactly the topic you think it should be?
Is it okay to give like an ultimatum here? Yeah, in this for this relationship dynamic, not specifically Joe's.
I wouldn't call it an ultimatum. It's just intense pressure, social pressure.
Hey, I think she's based. She tells you what she wants, what to expect, right? That's easy. That helps you out.
It is easy.
Right?
I count those pills, though. I count those pills every time. I know she's on PC. I count them. I make sure she doesn't turn them into Skittles. I make sure the wrapper is nice and freshly wrapped.
Oh my goodness.
Responsible parenting, Joe.
Okay, memes aside. I do have a story, and then we can get back to the grind. I did get really scared because I didn't know the practice of throwing out placebos was a thing. So, so I just like I'm
no.
I'm taking the trash out. I just see BC in the trash, and I'm like, nigga. And I just like I saw
It's a
my whole life.
trap.
I saw my whole life flash before my eyes. I see myself clapping in the front row for my kids at the recital. I see myself in my bed with all 12 of them by my side. And then and then I thought I was getting gaslit because she was like, I didn't throw it out. And it's like, what is I took a picture of my trash. I was so scared.
Oh my god.
And then she was like, it's just placebo. And I'm like, what? People do that? And then I asked all my feminine friends, and I just got dragged across the earth. Like, how'd you not know that? It's like I've never seen that in my life.
Yeah, like how are we
I
supposed to
haven't
know
either.
about like the details of birth control?
I thought you took
Stupid
the
men, am I
placebo.
right?
Ladies,
It's
realize
Dumbass
men
men.
are stupid and just assume men are stupid about everything.
That's
okay?
not being stupid, right? Like I wouldn't.
Okay, ignorant.
Understand,
They don't
I
know.
wouldn't expect that a woman knows like the vagrancies of like dick pills, right? Like that they had bothered putting, and like they had like understanding like how it affects the male body. No, like it gives you a stiffy, right? And that's like
I
the
don't know the
most
vagrancies of
important
dick
thing.
I had my
pills.
girlfriend take one of the gas, not my current girlfriend, but the girlfriend that one of my ex girlfriends, one of those gas station pills. Yo, those
The
shits are
horny goat weed.
no,
girl.
because like we were sitting and she was like, we should try it. And I'm like, what? And she's
You're
like,
getting
"We should
old,
both
Joe. You're getting
yeah,
old.
I know. She was
what
like, we
it
should
is.
both. I'm like, we should both try it. And I'm like, I don't think it worked for you the same way that it worked
It
for
doesn't.
me. And the entire time she was like, I could feel my heartbeat. I'm like, that doesn't sound safe. Like,
But yeah, for your question, Amanda, I definitely
sorry.
want kids. I've been doing all this conversation about blood, but I want to have like two of my own, and then I want to adopt because I feel like that's my debt to society. And yeah, after adoption, regardless of blood, I'd be damned if anybody.
hell yeah,
say that's not my
recycle.
child.
I've
wanna
got
have
several
as
kids. I've already got several kids out there already. I just abandoned them. Everybody told me it was morally neutral to do so fuck them.
No one
I'm
said
gonna
that.
go and do what I'm gonna go do
Oh,
right by me.
were
said
your
that.
kids
The
little
Nick Cannon
shits?
method. I love it.
And were your kids little shits?
You can see it in their eyes.
I don't know. I abandoned. I fucking left. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But I would love to adopt. I would make a fucking good dad. I know it. My kid would stay up all night eating junk food, playing video games. I'd be the best dad.
Hell yeah.
Fuck
Just
yeah.
as long as you don't see your son writing a 60-page manifesto about another content creator, I think you'll be okay.
Son, stop doing your work and play some fucking video games.
Yeah, Dad, I'm doing homework right now. Who the hell is Ian? Like,
Oh.
I'd love to have
I-
children. I want to
I'm
have
sorry,
as many
Dream.
children as my girlfriend allows. So if that's 10, 20, or 30,
Really?
stop shooting.
He wants
She's
that
like,
to-
pump me up 30 times. I'm gonna just shoot them out. You're like, yeah, let's have like 30 kids.
As many as you can, because
I don't think you could remember 30 kids' names.
It takes a city to raise a village.
I'm challenging you. Name 30 names right now.
And part of that village is the continuation where you take care of your parents.
mm.
Sure.
Unless,
That's my
unless
preference.
unless we're going
That's
the
my preference.
communist
Don't leave
route.
your dad homeless, please. No.
That's my preference. I would do that for my preference.
It's morally neutral.
Well,
yeah.
his dad was like I think you would agree, right? Like a
Yeah,
like a
but my
person.
dad,
I-
was abusive to my family, so I personally don't like my
I
dad.
feel like
Wait a
you
second.
have a cap dream. I feel like you have a monetary cap.
Am I the only one here
Yeah.
with a good childhood?
This is what I'm saying. As much as she would allow.
Sorry, guys.
Like, I'm
realistically,
convinced-
4
Listen.
children. Realistically,
I'm about to say four of us are black, which like statistically leads to like some effed up potential situations for some like systemic reasons. So it's
I
part
don't
of
know.
it.
I'm convinced I'm gonna
my
have.
grandpa had 12
Right,
children.
not a great upbringing.
Yeah. My
Right.
white friend has had a rough upbringing.
Oh Lord Jesus.
It
Yeah.
correlates with skin color. My upbringing, Smash's upbringing. We're just gonna
Oh,
keep
Lord.
going. Sorry, guys. It gets the darker you go, the worse it gets.
Oh.
Them's the rules.
No, but I actually had a pretty good I'm like overall upbringing. Like I'm absolutely a statistic, but it ended up working out good. Like my her dad died young. My mom dealt with like a whole bunch of her stuff, but I ended up being with my grandparents and they're like super dope. Love
Cool.
them niggas.
I think for
Yeah.
most people, like looking back, I mean, there are some things I would change, but they're not really like familiar based. But I think like our actions, everything that happened as kids would like shape us who we are. So I don't know what that would look like. You know
Okay.
what I mean?
Can I want to like tag on to something Bam said. Is that right? Yeah. So just a personal, like, something that just fucking annoys me. Can we get rid of this stupid fuck idea that the ideal family unit needs to be a mom and a dad? Extended
sure.
family work. Extended family can raise children just fine, and sometimes they can do better.
Deeper to all live
Okay.
together.
Tell
yeah, I
us
just-
the conservatives,
Like
because
I-
they're annoying.
I just
as
had
fuck.
this conversation about this, like about like the idea of the village. Like most people aren't living the perfect mom, dad, 2 kids, white picket fence. A lot of people, and I don't think people have a problem with like grandparents being involved, aunts, uncles, like having more people to have like more people to watch your kids is good. But we want your morals and a lot of those things. Generally, we would expect that to come from the parents.
Well,
At least
we would. That's typical. In fact, I think that's kind of like the status quo. It's expected that that's going to be the case. Not necessarily that that is the case. Just it's expected to be the case that you're raised by your parents. But there is a sizable block of conservative politics in this country that insists on this idea that a child does best in a 2-parent household, even if that's to the detriment of the child or the family unit itself. They want to end things like no-fault divorce. They get mad when Black Lives Matter says we support abolishing the nuclear family requirement for extended families. They like zero into all these different ways where we try to grow the family unit and make the family unit a more cohesive structure that takes care of people. They want to narrow it down to just a mother, a father, a kid, a white picket fence, and a dog named Spot, and that's just not realistic for most people.
We're gonna disavow all of them.
I have a growing
I have
I have a
a,
growing thought to that.
okay,
Oh, sorry.
and I'll jump to you next. I'm just curious if that might if our friend GSU Gambit would feel that way, because we've had long conversations about his thoughts on family, right? And he like likes the family, the classic family unit, and he thinks that's the best way of raising a child. So I'm curious if he would say like maybe it's acceptable to have like other stand-ins instead, because you're talking about is instead of the mom and dad, right? Like you have like the grandparents or the aunts and uncles, right?
Mhm.
Just
I'm
an
curious-
ideal. Let's just invent a scenario. Mom and dad ain't fit to be parents. They fucked
Yeah.
up. Okay, they're not ready. It ain't for them. But they don't believe in abortion. Whatever.
Yeah.
Somebody else should take those kids. Right.
Yeah.
That kid should be put in the household that will raise that child the best. It's perfectly fine for a broader community to raise children if the parents are not equipped to do it. And that includes extended family.
I'm curious what our friend GSU would think about that, and I wonder if we could, if he's hardline on this, if you guys
He
can
heard
have a
you.
conversation
He
about
heard
that.
you in the ether.
The
Joe
bad
is-
signal.
Because
So
I
Joe-
heard somebody talk. I can't do his Georgian Southern accent, but I heard people talk. I can't do it. I'm a racist.
Yeah.
I do it. I do think that something that the left has to do, personally, is to not die on the hill. Where it's like sometimes I hear, because this happens every once in a while when I see like online discussions where conservatives say like, "You're trying to change the way I live," and it's like
Nobody.
I don't think
No.
left-leaning people need to back away from that. I think they should just be like,
It's
yes.
okay to.
Yeah,
it's
if a
okay to-
2-parent household
Yes.
works, it works.
That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
if you got a
like,
mommy
I
and a
wanna-
daddy, more power to you. Great.
Yeah, where it's like I personally think that like I want to change the way that the status quo lives. Like I want to change the way that the status quo thinks, because it's very clear that like especially in terms of family structures that the current cookie cutter way of how people think about families just isn't what exists in real world.
That is a uniquely 1950s post-war family structure.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
that
I think
only
it was just
exists
to
because
sell
of the GI
houses.
Bill.
Yeah.
It was because there was government subsidies for like building out the suburbs, and they were exclusively for white families.
Mhm. And it didn't really work because, like I said, there's and across the majority of the world, people still do a decent job of like, well, I don't even say would do a job, but like for one reason or another, people live with their parents longer. Even when you have kids, like, oh, mom and dad still live at home. Like, there's nothing wrong with like having grandparents in the house, having an aunt or uncle that lives around the corner, like being part of bigger communities. Like, I think that these things do generally hold benefits, but I will say that like for people, this isn't when people talk about the nuclear family, that I don't think anyone who advocates for nuclear family has an issue with aunties and uncles and grandparents being involved. The thing they have an issue with is single parents without any help. Like they're talking about like a single mom with no one helping them.
Yeah.
That's the thing that they seem to find
Well, they-
statistically problematic.
So I would agree.
Which I would agree to that. I think it's
Yeah.
also probably not good.
I would agree that broadly most people don't want single parents, left and right. The reason I'm
but
singling
the
this out,
left dies on that hill. It's not even left.
I don't think
it's
the
actually
left are celebrating single parenthood.
yeah,
I think
no,
the
I wouldn't
left,
tell you the left. It's and oh god, I'm gonna sound like a conservative. I'm sorry. It's a really niche radical feminist talking point that fathers that two parents offer nothing to the household but another bank account, and
they're stupid.
I've heard that.
Well, they're
Logically speaking, two-parent households is just statistically better to raise a child, but it doesn't mean a one-parent household can't, and it doesn't mean a one-parent household is definitionally worse just because you're talking about statistics. Individually, it could be better.
But this
Or it
is
could be good enough.
why. But this is why I argue that like we got to give parents money, like not a tax cut, not a tax relief day, money. And then what happens is you get that sort of railroad of like, well, somebody's got to pay for it, and it's like, okay, Electrofan, like go back inside. You'll use your money the same way that I'll use I'll use my own money on that, because we understand that like, yeah, like if there's one parent in the household, then there's one parent in the house, and that could be for so many factors that have nothing to do with like these pesky women not fucking anymore and holding their vaginas away from us. It could be like so many other reasons outside of that. And it gets a little frustrating because it's like, yeah, you know, if we understand that there's like financial obligations that parents have, and if there's only one parent in the household, that becomes incredibly difficult. And it could be financial I won't say obligations, but like financial tasks and financial questions that they have to answer. Then yeah, like we should probably, you know, front the bill, and the government should probably front the bill. But then you get all the libertarians of like, I will do nothing for the government. The government doesn't own me, doesn't control me. And it's like, all right, Fabian, calm down. But you're gonna get a check too in my world. So it's like it is.
You can opt out the check if you want, Fabian.
Yeah. It's like I know you'll cash it. You'll cash it the same day I do. Like,
you don't want the check? That's fine. Do you?
Yeah, and that's the thing where it's like I think that if these policies and these things are presented in a way, especially under like unified party government, then they could just see it and not like, I don't want to say see it and not complain about it, but it's like, it's very interesting, like in my state where conservatives will push back really hard on things, and then Democrats will pass it, and then all of a sudden when it's something that's really good policy wise, they're very quiet about it, especially where it's like, well, yeah, I mean, like we had problems with it, and they get all like, it's kind of like that, and Amanda probably knows what I'm talking about, when like a kid eats something and they thought they hated it, but it's good, but they're denying it in their chair that it tastes good.
Dude, that's like the American people with Obamacare.
Yeah, it's like, how's this broccoli? It's good, I guess. And it's like, what? It's good, interesting. But it's like, I still don't like it. It's like, what? Like,
it's good if you change the name.
Yeah.
Word for shizzle my nizzle.
Tell the kid
because it is frustrating. Like I'm like, and again, like I want to change the way conservatives live in America. Like I'm done hiding from that hill. Like I will gladly build that castle, put a nice fort in there. I'll make sure they'll come in when all these parents get their $800 checks. They'll be the first ones like, I don't like this, but I'll take this for now. I'm like, yeah, I know you'll take this because that's.
I'll say one thing from like I've from this conversation, I feel like people have gotten the idea. I have a really, really strong bond with my family, and I'm super appreciative for that. I think that I wouldn't say it's a negative, but one of the trade-offs for that is I think there's a part of me that I'll probably never be able to truly engage with myself, just because of like from a lot of the decisions I make as an individual are framed around family. So how far, even when I was choosing college, one, there was like scholarships involved, but it was like, okay, how far am I from home to get back to my family? Or the types of people I date, to the types of jobs I go into, to the type, like I don't have tattoos. I don't generally like them, but another thing is because I know it would be a big issue to my grandmother. So there's like, I think people who are like don't have strong familial ties, like they're like, you know, I'm gonna travel the world, or I'm moving across the country, and just gonna like find myself and exist. Like I'm sure they have like their own issues, but I think that there's some ability to really find yourself in a way that if you do have strong ties with your family, like part of my existence is like to be in support of the family, like the types of, I want to make a lot of money to support my family. I want to do these things to support my family. It's bigger than me, and that's that's not me complaining. That's just something I've like. I don't hear a lot of people
So
talk
you're
about.
saying that your growth is stunted by, well, not stunted isn't the word you would use, but like it's hindered in some way by their strong familial connections in a way that like for me, I'd be one of those people. I'd be one saying that like I want to travel the world, right? Only get away, like disappear for a few years. That you would never do that, but you're saying that because of that, you might be missing out.
Yeah, there's probably I'm sure there's things that I would like another version of me would do if I didn't have any connections to any, like if I didn't have like such strong familial bonds.
Positive things that make you grow as a person. You're saying this might be another topic, right? We might be Amanda.
Well, I mean, like there's something to that, right? Where it's like I imagine where I would be in life if I discovered they them pussy at 18 or 19. As opposed to like 26 or 27, and that could have been like because of like my parents' opinion on these type of things. Like your trajectory can change in so many different ways, just on like what your family thinks of certain things. Especially they them pussy, because it does hit different.
Word.
True, and I like I said, I've never discovered. I haven't discovered the Thussy. Maybe like I said, maybe I was born that way. Maybe it's
a magical thing.
I've written that down. Maybe we'll have a larger conversation about that. Bam.
The C or the other part.
Hey, Prime.
I feel like this is a good time to talk about my
Hey, Prime.
perfume.
Yeah.
Hey, Prime.
LSP's gonna say something terrible to me. Go ahead, LSP.
GSU Gambit's mama is so fat when she skips a meal, the stock market crashes.
Is he in chat?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah.
Fucking clip it. Send it to him. I don't give a fuck.
Oh no, I was just wondering. I was like, is he here? But yeah, I don't know. Are y'all like, are any of y'all like, do y'all feel connected to your family, hindered by your family? Like, not hindered, I guess. Yeah, influenced by your family.
I mean,
or
I got a good ass family. I'm lucky.
I mean, I actually appreciate the kind of life that I live because it gave me so much perspective about other people that live similar experiences or just as bad as my upbringing or good. Because I had a mixture of good and bad. I'm lucky to be here in America. Like I came from Morocco, and I'm glad I didn't stay there. Like, but I still have cousins that's there, and they're telling me how bad it is over there. No opportunities. And when I came here, I still had like an abusive parent, but I at least was in America. So I'm lucky to be here.
Yeah, America.
So
Stand it free.
However bad America is, it's not as bad as literally no country in Africa. So
you don't know that. You don't know that.
In my opinion. I mean,
it's possible. It's possible.
At least the life I lived here, right? So there is a life that you can live here in America that is worse than
because I've been to Venice. I've had I have the Italians pull my hair, and my part of me is like, it's like this every day, and they're like, yep, sunny. 80, 90, like damn, I could do this. I think I could just pocket that racism.
Bam. Oh boy. Bam. Oh man. Bam. Could you repeat that question that you said? Because I have an answer.
Oh yeah, I was saying, do any of y'all feel like you were, I wouldn't say hindered, but like your life's path has been influenced by your familial ties, or do y'all feel like really strong, like I'm my own person, life takes me wherever I choose to? Like I could up and leave today, and like, like if I don't talk to my parents for a year, like it is what it is. I'm growing.
Oh, that's what you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, if that's what you mean, then I would like to change my answer.
I could do that. I could definitely do that. Like, but I feel close to my family though. I feel close to my mother, my father. The rest of my family less so. And I think they would tell you that themselves.
Did they give you that pass? Did they tell you like, oh, Prime, we want you to, like we want you to be your own person, like because
Yeah.
that could be the difference.
Well, that's one thing. Yeah, they want me to be my own person,
Encouraged it.
to have like my own things that I'm up to, and fine of moving away. I would want to talk to my parents, on the phone. I would like hit them up.
Yeah, but if
in
you
a year.
want to, yeah, that's completely
Yeah,
fine.
yeah. But it's just like a compulsion, right? Because I know you're trying to draw a distinction between how you feel,
Mhm.
and you could never do that. Like walking away from your family for a year, not seeing anyone, just like hitting them up on emails or like texts every so often, right? For like bit of updates, but like not seeing like your nieces or nephews growing up and stuff like that. Yeah, like I definitely could. I'm that type of person who I could just.
And it's not even just like out of. I mean, well, a big part of it is like I would feel bad about it, but it's like I physically I physically can't. Like my family owns on farmland. My grandparents do. My granddad, he's in his 80s now, and he kind of still does a lot of the work. But like that's what I do whenever I'm not doing my job. Like I come home on weekends. I um do farm work. I have no desire to be a farmer, but this is my family's, I guess, legacy. So I feel like I have like this is my thing. Like no one, it kind of missed the generation with my mom's generation and like all of his brothers. Like it was a lot of f ups going on, a lot of situation. So now I'm in a position where it's like, oh, okay, a lot of black people don't have land. A lot of black people don't have things like this, and this is something that's been in my family for over 100 years. So if I let it all fall apart, then that's gonna
You got to work your way into that will, right?
yeah, my family will like that'll follow me. So I gotta like figure out how to do these things. I gotta learn the lessons, and I gotta
That's
make
you
these
right
things
now?
happen. Yeah, that's kind of my life, and it's not even and that's the thing. I don't even really want I have no desire to do this job, but I couldn't see like something that my family's worked on for generations fall apart. That
Sure.
would be
What kind of farm?
Cattle.
Is it like a weed farm?
What
Huh?
you're doing?
Yeah, cattle.
Cattle. Okay, that's not. That's a little like weed.
Oh,
So
Don't tell- eat it.
the enslavement of
don't tell perspective philosophy that. You might run into an argument of veganism for 5 hours.
Oh no! Think of the cows.
you want to enslave.
Who
No,
cares?
he'd be like, we have to look at the calculus. We have to make the calculus
The
analysis.
utilitarian
of,
calculus.
utilitarian
Yes.
calculus of the
Name the
cattle
trait.
farm.
What does an animal have that a human doesn't?
Plus, it was the land we were. It was the land we were like enslaved on.
thinking.
So it's something that's like has a even stronger ties to it.
Yeah.
Dude, that's.
I'm
Cool.
gonna-
I mean, that's
Why
not cool.
not?
What you were saying.
Why
That's
not?
cool history. I meant.
You
Fuck.
could
Okay,
repurpose the
whatever.
land. Like,
Never mind.
why can't you own the land and just not have the cattle? Is that okay?
I mean,
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
guess.
just send
What
them
if
the-
like, hey, let me make this like the hangout
Make a
style.
shitload of
and rent it out.
cheeseburgers, dude.
Make it-
Yeah, just make
Airbnb. Why can't you repurpose the land and be Airbnb and make money like that?
Yeah,
just
sure.
sell it off. I don't know.
Well,
Not
I mean,
sell it off, but you own the land, but you just rent it off.
Yeah.
How
It's your
does it
family's land. It's not their family's cows.
Wait,
It's not attached to
You're
that.
trying to say he's gonna be a landlord? Like
He is a
backdoor
landlord already.
What were you gonna say,
Cows are
Amanda?
I was just asking how a cow does algebra.
There you
With
go.
the
Same
calculator.
way.
With a calculator.
Hey,
Oh my god.
I thought that was a Doja Cat
That,
joke.
that was from her son.
point,
Her
you
son
couldn't
definitely
do
counted that
algebra.
one. Which is one reason why she won't disown him, or she'll get cut off with
Yeah.
his endless
Great
stream of
joke.
jokes.
I'm gonna get LSP's joke list here soon.
I mean,
I-
like,
One up my kid
You have
tomorrow.
to pay me some royalties,
Before
girl.
LSP sets
Okay.
himself on fire, though, right? Is that what that is? It looks like a flame.
Is that it? I don't even know if it has any. Yeah, it does.
Uh,
I got this. There we go. I'm just playing with something to do with my hand because it's an ADHD.
Yeah, that's right.
There
No,
we
that's right. Flame on.
I love America. Yeah, America. America rules.
Yeah.
Fuck you, Canada.
Okay. Great. I know which way. So before LSP does something to hurt himself just because he needs to do something with his hands right now, right? Like, why don't you just jerk off beneath like
God, I'm
the
like,
camera
hey,
line?
yo.
Hey, if you want me to
Right?
jerk
Like,
off, buddy, I'll start right now.
Just do it
Yikes.
beneath the camera line, and you're good.
Which
Anyway, Trey.
which person in the frame are gonna use for material?
I mean, I've seen Gavin McGinnis do it on stream. Just
Uh,
just pound one out. It's a little weird.
How was that man taken
The whole
seriously?
time.
I'll never understand
so-
it.
yeah, I was going to say, before anyone hurts themselves, let's we'll move on to a walk on panel right after this. Okay, all right. So we're gonna have a walk on panel. The content doesn't end. I'm gonna end this thing. I'm gonna like allow these people to leave. They only agreed to a certain amount of time, but I would keep them here forever and have like a very long conversation with them because this is a lot of fun. But yeah, we gotta let them go, unfortunately. But again, the content does continue. So if you've been enjoying this content so far, do yourself a favor, hit that follow button. Hit that follow button right now. Make sure notifications are on so you know I'm going live. Extra social and chat. For our social media, we have a lot of social media. We have Twitter. I actually tweeted today. That was amazing, right? Big step for me. Discord is where you'll find the community, right? So jump in there. Be a part of the conversations we're having in Discord, both in both in text and in voice, like we're having now. TikTok is where you'll find amusing videos from the channel, and YouTube is where you find the VODs. If you missed anything, check out our YouTube, like, comment, and subscribe, and consider becoming a YouTube member, hitting that join button, supporting us that way if you enjoy getting this content 7 days a week, right? It helps, coming up with an edit and all that good stuff. Okay, so we are going to give an outro to all these amazing individuals, but again, stick around. We still have more content. Big Kumba, thank you for gifting that sub. That's awfully kind. To 3 Glad, hey, 3 Glad, yeah, former member of this. Yeah, we don't see them around anymore, but hopefully we'll see them again. But thank you for gifting us up to 3 Glad. We get 2 more individual people helping out by subbing to the channel, getting bits, getting subs. We can start ourselves a hype train, which would be pretty amazing, right? Give that a try. But thank you, Big Kumba, for that kindness. All right, let's move on and give these people that outro. Start with Bam. Bam, thank you for coming through, right? Like, you added a lot to this, but that's what you usually do. So thanks so much, Bam.
Jesus Christ. No, love your kids, man. You only get the ones that come out of you. So, or
No.
that you.
Oh
go
no, you can
find.
adopt too.
Yeah, or you adopt them. You only got the kids you got. I love them kids.
They're kind of like groceries. You can
No,
just
You
get
can
them back,
just adopt more. You can adopt more.
That's like groceries.
Like if you don't like this one,
another one.
Exactly.
just return them and get a new
But
one.
yeah. But yeah,
Yeah.
no, like super cool conversation. I think that people's perspective expanded, but I don't know if anyone necessarily moved. There was a lot of like really, really tough points to this conversation. It made me think, and I'm probably gonna come back like a lot of these conversations. I'm gonna come out of it, think about it some more, and try to refine some things. But all in all, I still think, yeah, you should probably love your kids. But,
Okay.
yeah, that's it.
Yeah, absolutely. You should love your kids. They do
My
something
uncle loved his kid.
fucking awful.
Oh my god.
Desperado Sensei, thank you for gifting us up to Joe Lewis. Joe Lewis is not supporting the channel right now. That's okay.
Man, what the fuck did he do for the sub?
But thank you. Exactly. Joe Lewis, thank you for gifting us up to him. And then Paul, thank you for gifting 100 bits. Hey guys, how about the hype train? We're at a hype train right now, 37% done. 53%. No, 63, excuse me, percent left. Can we get to a level 2 hype train? Support the channel, guys, if you like this content, like having these people coming through, talk about all kinds of different subjects. I bet you other channels aren't talking about this particular subject, right? We try to expand ourselves. We try to give you varied content here, not just like the regular political talks. So if you enjoy all the things we try to do for you, sub to the channel, right? $5, and you'll get our subs, your emotes, and you'll get app reviewing. You get all that good stuff. And you'll be supporting this community. Subs to the channel, give bits or give subs or resubs help as well. So we'll keep our eye on that. Less than 3 minutes left on the clock. Let's see if we can get to level 2 hype train. Could really use the help. All right, so let's go to our friend Joe Lewis, right? Who has been the benefit of Desperado Sensei's largesse. Desperado, Joe Lewis, thank you for so much for stopping by and taking the conversation to your own unique place, like you really always do.
Yeah, no, this was good. Look, like I'm kind of, I don't know. I'm in a weird position on panels, I think, because like I'm kind of moving forward. I'm kind of just being like less. I don't want to say open, but just being more open and fixed on my ideas of like what I express and making sure that's like articulated better. So that's why I kind of like I stay quiet and charge up a bit. Um, but this was an interesting conversation. I do think like obviously there's like some contention and some of the things that I said, but you guys are like you're all willing to like do your thing, like so it's always good. It's always good to see people who like when I first came into the space who are still around, like LSP, obviously you Prime, and it's also cool to see like new faces, like Bam, Dream, and Amanda. It's been a weird it's I'm guessing getting a little introspective because it's like gonna be like this day this week was the first week back in 2020 where I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna start like streaming and doing my own content. So it's been kind of cool to see like, okay, who's still here, who's not here. So it's kind of interesting in that regard. But enough like sob stuff. Yeah, that's all I got.
When you
Thank
get a
so
Follow my
much.
channel.
Before then,
Always good
like
seeing you.
we have less than 90 seconds left on the clock. Thank you, Amanda Smash, for gifting a sub to Mega Death Clock. Oh, Death Clock. I remember that TV show. Oh, and thank you, XO Fist. All right, XO X Fist. For being so kind as to get 5 subs, saving the hype train. Thank you. For that 7 subs in total. Hey, we love our newer supporters, right? And we love Amanda for 206 subs total. She's been huge help to this community. But anyway, thank you so much for saving the hype train. We're on a level 2 hype train. Can we get to a level 3 hype train? Support the channel. We have 20%, 72% left. Can we make it to a level 3 hype train? 4.5 minutes to the clock. Subs to channel, give bits or give subs. All right, we'll move on to our friend LSP. Right, LSP. This panel ended better than the last one with you. So LSP, market improvement.
I was drunk. I'm
Oh.
sorry. I was drunk. You
But
were
I-
warned too.
All been there.
I'm happy that
I don't
you're
think
here.
you've ever. No.
I
Well,
think I've been there.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway,
Yes.
Trust me, I've been there.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
But
I
yeah,
miss Sneaky Debate, man.
me too.
Whatever happened to him?
He's got a job and he's in.
Oh, what about-
he's in a different time zone. He's
What
like
about Phil? Remember Phil, King of Extreme?
Oh,
yeah,
my
yeah.
God.
Well, he's
God,
around
it's a
and he comes every so often. He does.
Okay, so Doobie brought up a really great point in chat, and he basically provided an extreme
Oh, he did.
example, and he wanted to know, like, if you would disavow your child if they were this extreme. And I thought I could one up him. What if your child was a weeb? What if your child was a furry? And then I thought, what if your child was Doobie? And then it clicked to me, like I had to stand by my principles. The reason there are Doobies in the world is because there's not a strong, good father figure. If there was a good father figure in Doobie's life, Doobie wouldn't be Doobie. Doobie would actually be somebody respectable. And basically, this is the impetus behind what I believe. You don't want a world full of Doobies. You want a world full of LSPs. Okay. Anyway, I'm not going to shout out my YouTube channel because my YouTube sucks, and everything I produce
That's
sucks.
true.
That's true. There is this dude named Jangles Science Lad who's launched a comedy channel called Jangles is a Joke, where he reviews jokes and comedy skits, and it's really funny. Check it out because he's pretty baller. Check the thing I put in chat or whatever. I don't care. Sub to him, don't sub. I don't care. Whatever. Anyway, thanks, Prime.
Okay.
What if my child didn't like One Piece? Oh my god. This
we're
may
done.
change everything.
I
Down the
got
line.
no. I
Listen.
brought them into the world.
You would
I'll take
avoid
them
it.
out of the world.
Bam. If you would, bam. Like
You
I
would
said,
avoid
you raise them right. If you raise them right, you don't have to worry about these things.
You're right about that. Good father. No, raise your child like that.
So we are at level 2 hype train, guys. How about the hype train? Level 2 hype train, 2.5 minutes left on the clock. 20% done, 70% left. Can we make it to a level 3 hype train? Subs to the channel, get bits or give subs, get the ad free viewing, get our emotes, get that, that lovable feeling in your heart when you know you're supporting this community. It gives you so much. That's always here, right? More than any other channel, always around. Providing content. If you enjoy that, if you like what we're doing, right? If you want to see us continue to have all these great individuals, right? Then be so kind, help us out, subs to the channel, gift bits, or gift subs. Resubs count as well. So if you got a resub, that also will move things along. If you have an Amazon Prime, says Prime Gaming, use that one free sub per month on this community. Support this channel to keep it up and running. So subs to the channel, gift bits, or gift subs. Hopefully we can get to a level 3 hype train. We could use the assistance. Thank you so much. All right, less than 2 minutes left on the clock. T10 Dream.
I wish life was as easy as if your parents raise you right, then you will be right too. Unfortunately, you got your lame ass friends to influence you too. So yeah, there's some great people out there, great parents that raise some serial killers, and there's no fault of their own. Also, totally because some of the media they watch, some of their friends they have, some of the teachers they have. Teachers raised me too. My mom did not teach me anything good at all. Neither did my dad. Like the only thing I can even take away from them is like passion. But any morals I got all basically from either my brother or sister or like my teachers. Like literally, that's it. So your parents may not be good teachers or arbiters for good parenting, but you still have a chance to be a good person because of other influences in your life. And your parents could be the greatest parents, but you still have opportunities to be a horrible person because of other influences in your life. So it's not as absolute as good parenting equals good person. I wish it was. It would be a much easier life. But yeah, disown your children if they go too far. It's okay. And if you don't want to, that's okay too. You don't have
Disown
no
do
moral
be-
obligation to disown your children, but you also don't have any moral obligation to not disown your children if they went too far.
Okay, thank you, Tones Girl, and for gifting us up to 9 out of bed. Oh, I remember that guy. Remember that guy. We'd like to have him again. As Yom for 15 months. And fuck the hype train for ending with 50 seconds left. The hype train does this. Like, it's really fucking annoying. It'll end early. But thank you for the ones who supported. And you can support the channel inside or outside a hype train. So subs to the channel, give bits or give subs. Thank you to the ones who are actually supporting this community, guys. We need their help, or we can't have this level of content. So support this channel. All right, let's go to one of our best supporters and a person who just like makes my day just by showing up. Amanda Smash, thank you, friend, for coming through and being part of this. This was a lot of fun getting here. We haven't had you around in so long. And so, like, you coming on, and like, you had a lot to say about this stuff, and you really added a lot to this, especially since you're the only parent here. So, thank you for your
my
Only
kids.
biological parents.
I
raised my little
Yeah.
sister.
Yeah. No, thanks for having me. So the topic, is it chill to disown your kids? I think that it's problematic to own kids to begin with. So, yeah. No, yeah, thanks for having me. This was nice. I had fun on this panel. I did realize that I need to not look down because I didn't realize how that was looking on camera. So I think chat saw the top of my head most of the time, but sorry.
Okay.
What if your kids is lame?
It was a beautiful topic.
Yeah, we got to work on this. Like that was, I don't know about disowning, but like we gotta, like you gotta have some. My kid got to be drippy. I'm sorry.
Imagine your kid thinks